All right. Hello. This is the AAR for B1F of Imperial Diplomacy. I'm Casual, the player on Spain, and with me is as many people as I can scrounge up from the game. So, would everyone like to introduce themselves, going top to bottom here, uh, if they're able to?
Sebastian?
Uh,
Ah,
I'm the Abyssinian player. I joined you very late, like 1646 or something. So yeah, that's basically me.
all right. And then
Portugal.
that's Portugal.
I am the great ruler of the fantastic nation of Portugal. My name is Diragon, and I had the goal to get the first ever Portugal victory, but sadly one game managed to win before me. But I'm still the oldest Portugal because another game started like 1 month later. So
Yeah.
technically, I'm the oldest Portugal to win.
Nice. And then we have Sweden here, who's muted. We have the Ottomans, who are also muted. This is Lumbago, then Payamikron, and then uh, we have Athapasca.
Hello. Yep, I'm Athapasca. I'm just chilling in North America mostly.
Yep. Then we also have um,
Hello. I'm Shiftyfly, the empire on which the sun never sets, which is, of course, England. The sun never sets on the English Empire.
in our game at least. Um, then we have Tremor on Ayutthaya, Uralic on Ajuuran, both of whom are muted. We'll see if we hear from them at any point. We have Varhi on Tokugawa.
Hello.
And also, I cannot forget Sophie, our GM, as also
Hello.
joining us. All right.
I'll probably not say much, but hello.
We also might have people pop in and out. This is public, but we'll try and keep things cohesive. So, starting in 1642, how was everyone satisfied with their country selections? Um, First pick, second pick. Where were you in like that?
I got first pick.
Funny enough, I think
First pick.
Spain was my first pick as well. I was surprised to get Spain actually because I forgot I put that as my first pick. Um, I intended for my next follow-up game to actually be an Austrian campaign, but in the forum I just forgot and said, you know what, Spain's fun. So,
Ajuuran says first pick as well.
and then
I
yes,
first picked Spain because I really think their island position is really interesting as a regional.
Yumi Tokugawa.
Yeah, frig.
That's all right. Um,
Jeez.
how was everyone's general impressions on their year one? Or was there anything interesting that happened year one
Ooh.
that is worth pointing out if we can think of that? I'll look around
I
the
was going to
map.
say, do we want to talk about like pre-spring plans, or would
Pre-spring
that take too
plans
much time?
where they're relevant because that's
Yeah,
yeah. I think for some it might be very straightforward, but like you could just talk it through pretty quickly.
because I was thinking like there's different ways to play a colonial. But with the regionals, it's fairly simple. You just want to kind of expand. But with colonials, I've seen some people say try and join up your colonies and reinforce each other. And I didn't like that. I wanted to treat each colony like its own regional and then try and get each colony to quadruple, which is how much I need to win. You need to quadruple as a colonial generally.
Let's see.
So I like divided up into areas and then made a promise to never give up an area unless I absolutely had to, because then that hampers my chance of winning by a lot.
I'll jump in here because I think that is a
Hmm.
really important like how the colonial philosophy is like developing. I think we're in a pretty interesting place to where we saw how that went in A1, A2, and we're taking over in B1 here. I decided to like look around and just it, I think that colonials actually need to not view things as land powers, and that the best colonial chances you can get are actually as naval powers. It's to view the oceans and the coasts as regions instead of continents, because regionals have that privilege of thinking in terms of like continents. It's actually pretty easy to like move around in the oceans as a colonial, and if you lose the ocean, you rarely do well. So I rationalized that I had a North Atlantic area that I wanted to be involved in, that Portugal had a South Atlantic area and Indian Ocean, and any other, it would extend like any other colonial power with their power base around that ocean. That was like their domain that they were trying to achieve. And likewise, I said mine would be the North Pacific and North Atlantic, and to a lesser extent, the Mediterranean and Caribbean Sea, um, which might be a little bit of a tip off. But yeah, that's how I went into it, which is a bit. I don't necessarily. I didn't think year one how I would quadruple, because I think that takes a bit of that's too much playing into the future, at least for me. So I was willing to be very adaptable, because if I can be the force of least resistance, people are looking for ways out. They're looking for like the least bad option. So I position myself to always be that, sort of like what Spain was in A2C, and that's how they remained the last surviving colonial power other than
Yeah.
England. Um,
Portugal, what do you think about that?
So I
How
have
would
a
you?
really detailed plan about my pre-game thoughts in my void. Basically, the idea is the best ally for Portugal is always England, because you can greatly cooperate in India and Africa. You can fight against all the other colonials. So my plan was to make an two-way impunity with England, maybe with Spain, because Spain and Portugal don't really have that much area of conflict besides Europe. The plan was I have to attack France and Madagascar year one. I have to kill them as fast as possible, because I think France is one of the strongest, at least in this patch, France is one of the strongest colonials. My plan was to stab the Dutch either in the fall of the third year or the spring of the fourth year, because I wanted dominance over the South Atlantic in Indian Ocean, which they naturally contested. My early game strategy was to get all the locals on side. I wanted to give Aymara everything they wanted. My plan was to give Ajuuran everything they wanted, to cooperate with them. Mm. The only locals I really wanted to kill were Mali and the Mughals and Mapuche. And that basically was the plan. I wanted to get the southern border of the map. I wanted to kill Madagascar, Mapuche. So there was no one in the entire south who could contest me, and then just move the fleets north. Gain control over South Atlantic Indian Ocean, take India, take Africa, East and West Coast, take South America, and win the game.
Oh, well, nice and thought out.
so that's the colonials. Well, if you
Yeah.
have more thoughts to share on that, I'm
If like I'm wondering if the regionals have anything they want to say, or should we talk about maybe opening press, first impressions of different people?
So, to be honest, I didn't have a whole lot of initial plans, though something that did impact the region in East Asia was that Ming had opening plans to have us all be a triple, because Ming believed that that was the strongest thing in this game. And we'll see how that goes, but essentially, at the start, all three of us over here in East Asia, Ming, Ching, and me, Toku, were working together.
I think which is quite interesting, even I wasn't here, like reading Ajuuran in chat, he said like Ajur, Safavid, and Mughal all did an anti-Portugal alliance already in spring. So maybe that's like worthy to put out
absolutely.
there.
I have my phone
Oh.
open, so I'm monitoring the chat. so I don't have to alt tab because that I have to do display in order to show the
Gotcha.
Oh
thing on
yeah.
screen. But yeah, I think if you guys see anything in the chat that's also worth mentioning, say as such, because I'll try and read it, but I'm also trying to
So
do the
just if
math.
Portugal says like his plan was to like kill Mughal and get Ajuuran on his side, he maybe was on a bad foot already because they kind of figured out they want
Yes.
to fight him.
Yeah, that was a major
So,
problem.
I think there is
yeah.
a lot to be said about paranoia around colonials, and it shouldn't be
Mm.
taken for granted. You actually have to assume you're starting off in hostilities with players. And if you are, this is just my preference as a colonial after this game, um, and it's why I did so well in North America. It's to just sort of let the regionals filter out themselves, because if they want to work with you, that will be clear by the end of year 1, year 2, and you don't want to have accidentally made a choice to be hostile to someone who is actually potentially more friendly to you in the long term. Just because you think you have to go after one player and have this other player as an ally. I did that with Shoshone, Athapasca, and Inuit. I both all came to them with like, hey, here's how we can fit in the long-term plan. I'm not going to agitate for anything right now. I'm actually here at your mercy. So have what you want with me, and then I won't ask for much in return, which isn't a good growth strategy, but it allows you to play the board because you don't have to grow in a region as a colonial in order to build there, which is how I was able to generate an attack on North America and actually do pretty well there overall. Um,
Yeah, I
So,
think
uh,
any thoughts on that, or
I mean
I
I
have
mean I can chip in here for North America before moving to another region,
Yeah.
because I think North America, everyone did start off well, at least not intending to openly start any conflict year 1, because I think everyone was very much in agreement. I had decent press with Inuit and UTE. I mean, Spain's was the most warmongering in the sense, because you did try to convince me to attack Shoshonia 1, uh, which I not only refused, I actually told you, Shoshone, about that to try and get some inroads there, but they basically didn't believe me.
I think
uh,
that was up to my language that I was using. I didn't mean to agitate for that as an outcome. I think I said it to the effect of, or in my head, it was to the effect of, this is kind of an inevitability that you both are really compressed up there and you will have to fight at some point. I've seen games where whoever takes that initiative to fight that war and get a decisive edge in that war early, they end up walking away. I said that to Ute, who I actually thought I had more grounds to work together on because he had fleets in the North Pacific. And then I told you, so that way it wasn't actually a decisive victory if Ute went for it.
Yep.
Which, you know. But I
yeah,
I want to insist that that is also a thing to look out for, because if people don't interpret what you're saying correctly, because I think I'm not the only one who made that pitch to their respective regionals, but that pitch, which could be a very passive thing, all things considered, with my Diplo year 1, that was like one of my more passive suggestions. It actually could be very hostile and sound some alarms. It indicates interest in the region, which is the last thing that these regionals want, even if they want to sort things out themselves.
I mean, my takeaway from it was essentially that if we get a war, you'd go in from the south and get most of the SCs, and I'd be left with not that much. But yeah, we can see how that plays out in the future.
If we're doing opening press, I've got some notes for the first year
Sure.
that I could just read out. So it says, first thing, Spain has been great, hoping to have a strong alliance, but asking to go round by web Poland is. Oh yeah, that's you wanted to round in in South America. You wanted to move your fleets through New Courland down through the
Yes.
Cape, which I wasn't particularly happy with. France has been a bit slow to respond, I think that is. Quite eager to kill Netherlands. But I do need to have a viable position in Africa, which Netherlands can help me with. With Cormantin, I need Netherlands inside there. Portugal's been quite helpful in securing India, but apparently other players don't like him. I never really got to the bottom of that. I just heard people saying bad things about Portugal.
Probably the
Confirm.
Ajuuran Mongol alliance, but yeah.
Yeah, but more about Portugal's press, if I'm honest. Don't know. Sorry,
I think
Portugal.
it's like I come in that play way later, but I had struggles with press with him as well. It always felt like he's very demanding and not giving anything for small regionals.
I didn't find that, but maybe I got special treatment. Mughal was promising everything to everyone. I feel like Mughal went to me and said, "Hey, let's work together against Portugal. Oh, and by the way, I've said the same thing to Portugal." So I was like, "Right, I'm not trusting you then." And then I went to Portugal and go, "Mughal's told us both the same thing. Let's just kill him."
You have to play. You have to
Uh,
commit to the bit.
yeah,
If you do promise everything to somebody, you got to make them feel special too. Like you can't. That's not that's not how you do that.
yeah. Netherlands was talking slowly. They were like barely talking at all. But I wanted to give them another chance. I basically, by the end of that year, I had decided to stab Netherlands at some point, though, just because they were talking so little. And if you're talking little as a colonial, you're gonna die sooner or later.
Yeah, they felt like they were. Oh, I can't. I can't. I guess you can't talk about Netherlands and their press without talking about French press. Do you have a note on
Uh,
theirs?
I don't know. It just says France has been a bit slow. Um, I I don't know. I'll maybe come to
My
a bit later.
my
What is
year
yours
one
saying?
negotiations with France had to do with talking them down from getting Corsica and uh like like helping them in the Caribbean, which I said I
Hmm.
could maybe do that, but there's no world where you're walking away with Corsica because you already have Genoa here. Um, the
Yeah.
that and I had said that like you can go to Ligurian. I can't stop you from going to Ligurian, but you're giving me a lot of warning signs because I don't want to have to deal with you in the med at all. You can keep your centers here, but it's got to be like submissive. Like, um,
Yeah.
then
The
I
the
think
other thing is
Ottoman's gonna
that's
love to say
relevant.
something about the Mets later anyhow as well.
well, that's the
Yeah, you're talking about year one arguments about the med. Before we get
Yeah.
onto that though, I just put down Ute assumed that I would be fighting Spain. I can't remember if I told that to you or not, Spain, but
I
I was
think that
debating whether I should in the void.
hmm, it that assumption is not necessarily good. I've seen England's have a strong opening against Spain, but that's usually just to secure the Caribbean. I don't think anybody
Yeah.
knew about our arrangement about the Caribbean. Um, I was giving you the victory in that region for those first few years, and
Yeah.
that meant that like and even St. Augustine. So any further war would be around taking Gulf of Mexico, getting the three adjacent centers around that, and like North and South America, which cannot like that has to be like a late game play. Like it's not something that you get in the mid game and you keep against the regionals who stand to benefit from suddenly Spain being hollowed out there. You know, um,
Yeah.
and I felt
Just
confident in that, so I
hmm
wasn't intending to fight you at least at first. Smile.
we've got some notes from Ajuuran, who's not speaking but typing. Portugal gave nice press. They just think Ajuuran is not a natural ally of Portugal, which makes sense. and that French negotiations were really tense because France wanted all of Madagascar.
Yeah, France also did that in Madagascar too. I heard about that. And that made me like actually go to France and say, "Hey, this is having a bad outcome in your press. You might need to calm down your ambitions a bit because you're turning everyone in every region against you."
I wonder what my opening messages to Spain were. It was very sort of slow, really slow. We were just like, we've got things to discuss. Yes, we do. Where do you want to start? I don't know. Where, there. Yeah, France, when Netherlands wasn't talking at all, France was just talking about like how do we divide it up. It
Yep.
was it's just a lot of sort of we should talk about this sometime in the future, and we go, yes, we should definitely talk about it sometime in the future. Let's talk about these areas sometime in the future. I'll just you keep talking. I'll skim through see if I find anything.
So then, I think if anyone else has anything to say about initial press here, say it now or forever hold your peace. Because we've got the
So
Asian triple and stuff like that. I think we're missing a bit from South America if we've got anything from there, but
initial press, I do have something. I think in the first turn, Poland stabbed like Sweden immediately.
yeah,
he's
yeah.
not the only one who.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm seeing this in Baltic Sea.
We do have Sweden in here with us. You wanna?
I think Sweden is a sub, so he can't say anything about that.
No,
Sweden
no,
has
this
been-
is
Sweden.
Lumbago.
Sweden.
He was
This is
there
the
the whole
original
Oh,
time.
my
Sweden.
bad.
And
Yeah.
that was also like the Spanish move toward the
Oh.
Ottomans.
Yeah,
Yeah, Ottomans want to say something anyway, so let's talk. Let them talk, I guess.
absolutely.
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, Sweden says give it a few minutes.
Sure. Ottomans, are you here with us, or is this like in the chat?
He wasn't here and tried to talk a lot, but he got interrupted many times, so maybe I
I'm
don't know.
so
Sorry,
sorry
Ottoman.
that happened.
Okay, I'm back. So, you were talking about not agitating early on,
Uh-oh.
and we made an agreement the first turn, which you kind of immediately broke. And I mean, that is a strat, but you kind of blamed me for not offering you my centers and said that I wasn't interested in peace or mutual security, and that it would have been more beneficial for me to have done that. So I was kind of screwing myself over.
I will
This
not
was like a
defend that on
whole
a
thing.
interpersonal level because I think interpersonally that it was a very toxic thing that I did. But that is I had to like shake you a bit to get what I wanted out of the year one. I knew that tactically I could probably win, and I just needed to like apply every ounce of pressure that I could to get what I wanted. And I was hoping that I could do this so decisively and without issues that you would not be encouraged to counterattack. Which meant that I did have to do a lot of victim blaming. I did have to say that I'm going to take the most aggressive moves against you that I can. That like everything's on the table, even if my actual ambitions were very limited. I needed to do as much damage to you in order to be able to like pull back and then consolidate in Western Med.
The thing is, I could have gotten on board with that and cut my losses, but it's just that you kept blaming me after you'd done it, and you'd never objected to any of the plans beforehand. It just felt like really mean, and it didn't help
Yeah.
negotiations from that point forward at all. And you just kind of kept doubling down all game.
I
Sorry
think
now,
that
because I did like
yeah.
kind of the same with Ottoman. Like 5 years later, he did like the same treatment with me, probably. So that was kind of rough.
I think that hearing you in VC, I can kind of like I can now put like a tone to all the stuff I'm saying, but know that like in my presentation of the facts as I frame them, I am more like I do mean to be more conciliatory when I said that like I kind of had to like do this stab and I kind of had to not not indicate any discomfort with the deal as you've proposed it in order to like there I could convince you of this, but I had to do it on the battlefield first and then impress afterwards. And
But
I was focused on getting every tactical advantage I could, which meant being pretty mean and really
but
going like hard on you in this first
like
period.
opening with, I'm not sure you're actually interested in mutual security in the Mediterranean right after like you broke our deal, and saying, I think so. You edited that one. I think it's worth keeping a channel open for peace eventually. Beyond that, I think no, sorry. It just there's no world where this would have been conciliatory. I can't see that in this even after you say that.
When was that message sent? Like what day? I'm not trying to get into like meta, but if it's because the first 2 weeks I was minute to minute studying abroad on very bad internet.
So this is the
So
30th of December.
oh, that's even before I left. That's me packing. That's me packing for my trip, and I'm sending out that press. Um, I don't know. I think that's just me being very dismissive of you, and then, uh, yeah, like I can justify it any number of ways. I don't think they'll be entirely satisfying for you, but if it makes sense, I wouldn't have done it exactly the same way. I think I would have it like it I knew what I had to do tactically, but like if the mistake was that I did my press in a way that didn't leave me able to get the conciliatory compromise that I wanted to later on, then that's just I have to admit that's just a mistake and then go from there. Um, I won't do that again in the future in exactly this way. And for what it's worth, I am sorry that I was as mean as I was in press. Tactically, though, um, well, fall comes around, and I'm not too disappointed with the effect. Because if I was trying to play coy and say that no, this isn't a betrayal, then I wouldn't have got the moves that I wanted. Which, um, yeah.
I mean, you've also kind of brought it to general a bit as well. So like,
Oh yeah. it's and that's years later because it's just yeah. I don't know. There's a emotional instability among other things, but uh, yeah. I don't know how to move
Like
on from
Wow.
that.
I think like because I had like a similar situation way later with Ottomans, like my reasoning behind being little, I think like pretty rough to him was like I wanted to get him like angry so I can predict his moves better. Like if that makes sense. Like if I know he hates me and want to kill me, then I can better like calculate my moves regarding if he like attacks or when I just try to be friendly with him and it's always like distrust and he might step or he might not step. I rather have him like very angry and so I know how to defend. Like maybe that's
that also, as you can imagine, makes it hard to kind of be conciliatory later.
Mm-hmm. Because to be clear, the Met is where I made one of my only tactical mistakes, or strategic mistakes, which is just that I didn't set myself up in a way to bring you into any sort of like friendly relationship after the stab. That's just true.
For
And as a
context.
result, I
Oh,
suffered
sorry, you finish.
Austria. Well, as a result of that, I did suffer Austria gaining more power. I had to rely on Austria in order to contain you, and then by relying on Austria, they eventually grew strong enough to like fight me, which is the one thing I wanted to prevent. I wanted to move on, get my limited gains from Ottomans, then get my limited gains from Austria, and just be kind of satisfied with that. Essentially doubling in the med and then sitting on that. But
So,
you know.
Oh,
let's shift topic a bit.
yeah,
Just
can I point out
okay.
for context, for all of the other powers, what it looked like was basically year one Ottoman messaging everyone and going, Spain broke a promise. You can't trust Spain. I think you made 2 group chats, one with Spain and one without Spain, and basically said Spain can't be trusted, Spain breaks promises and then lies to you about them and isn't condescending, which is fair enough. It was just really funny. Not funny, but it seemed a bit overboard. But I can
And part
appreciate
of
that it
that
was
was
sort of,
me framing it as you going overboard as well. And like again,
yeah,
just more toxic. It's the most toxic diplomacy I've done, to be honest with you. And I'm not
yeah,
satisfied with it in the end. But I got you to the point where you were leaking my press. At that point, I was like, oh man, like not even like, oh man, how could this happen? It's like, okay, they're at the point of like leaking my press. As much as I want to get them to a limited piece, I don't want to have to like, kiss their feet in order to like get them to come back to me. They should know that this is going to be the best outcome for both of us, which is just not how diplomacy works. Like, yeah.
So, that I think I was building off. There were a few others who also felt that you'd kind of not held up your end of the bargain. So what I was trying to do was, if we kind of all act against you at once, uh, colonials tend to be very based on momentum. So if you kind of all go against them at once, you can kind of make it hard to defend like anywhere, and it can just be a big payout
Oh,
if you can.
absolutely. You're 100% right on that.
we're
And
about to see colonial momentum. I had great momentum for this
yeah.
game.
I think
I think
one
you
of the
did as
other
well.
powers that you're bringing up there, and I'm saying that because I recognize that like you're making me get reminded of a interaction that I had with Ute, where they also felt like I broke the deal because I had just plugged in these moves, forgetting that I had to bounce Ute in Sonora, and that me getting into Apache this year did not matter as much as bouncing them in Sonora, because I was angling to try and contest them a bit more than I was, going to, and that just yeah, I don't know. It did not end well here. I had to concede on Ute at least initially, because you were pointing out that I was breaking bargains, and from there I was like, okay, well now I need to go through with every bargain that I have arranged. Even if I do want revisions
Yeah.
now, I can't even ask for them because of how shaken everyone's faith in me has been. It was easily repaired, and because of how active I was in press, I think people wanted to overlook any sort of slight that I gave them. But one thing I'll suggest in the future is that it's maybe too early to tell, um, with the sort of like public press like warning stuff who should include and who you shouldn't include, but be
Probably shouldn't
on
have
the
included
safe.
you in the first one.
Well, of course, but even on the second one, because I heard of the exact same like second one getting made, and then like Poland fishing in it and undercutting like all the seriousness of it. Um,
Oh yeah, the
try to
fishing on.
yeah, try and include just the people who will take it seriously, because it's very easy for someone to like deflate the air out of a room if they really don't care, like Poland did. And
Yeah.
and
I
and
made this
it
mistake a few times in another game, but yeah, go on.
yeah, I when I anyways, I won't subtle foreshadow, but that lesson will come up later on. Do we see anything else interesting in spring, or is it pretty standard
I think.
opening?
So my strategy in the east,
Oh, yeah.
basically people were doing that thing where they do in a lot of games, which is like everyone against
Russia.
Russia, like all of the Inuit
Yeah.
neighbors. And I was like, Russia often gets like completely dogpiled. And I was like, well, if I did that, I would get barely anything. And one of the main ways I can expand is into the Safavids. And
Ah,
how about instead I make a deal with the Safavids, but then stab them and like just be pals with Russia for the entire game, which I kind of was. Because that
and
can
see,
help on quite a few different front, like against Europe and Safavids and eventually Mughals and things.
Yeah, that
see,
sounds like a good play. Yeah.
you making that move to Constantinople makes so much more sense in that context. Because I remember seeing that and going, "There's only one Ottoman fleet in the Med, and I have free reign over Ionian here." That's just down to like where the starting fleet was placed, like map design wise. I don't even put that on you because I would also move that fleet to Constantinople because it being in Black Sea looks so good. And Aegean is
I
slow. It is slow. So I don't know. Like
I obviously wish I hadn't done that like afterwards because it
Yeah.
made it that much harder to fight against you. But I really didn't want to have to like try and fight you. So I was like, I'll only ask for one. I won't move into the Levantine Sea just to like show that I'm willing to cooperate here.
yeah.
We go to the next year then.
Uh
Oh, I was gonna speak up if I could
Okay.
now.
yeah, Who's
Yeah.
and
this
who is
thing.
this? Because this is the first time
This
we're
is
doing the voice.
Sweden.
This is
Lamego.
Sweden. Welcome back.
Yeah. Disaster is
Oh yeah.
is the word I would use to describe
Sir, a second
my
fleet has
opening.
hit the Baltic Sea.
Yeah, so clearly, like, I'm trying to double here, right? That was my whole. Everybody knows, at least on this map, that Sweden has momentum issues and trouble breaking out past the Baltic, and so I was essentially willing to take whatever risk I had to try to double, right? Um, Poland actually came to me before I went to them and said, "Hey, why don't we DMC the Baltic Sea?" And I was like, "Happy to, but also obviously alarm bells." Um, but I decided to ignore those alarm bells and take Stockholm to Scania anyway. Of course, they went back on that DMZ offer. And then Russia and Kola was a complete miscommunication between the two of us. So a little history here. Russia and I were I was Mughal in A2C, and Russia
Oh,
was the original. The original Russia was England in A2C.
yeah, that's
And
Rudy. I remember
all
now.
he did, the entirety of A2C was lie to me. Like literally from the start through the mid game through the end, like the entire game, he just lied to me. And so things were a little like iffy there just because of our, I guess, history in the previous game. Obviously, you don't want to bring that into a new game, but even subconsciously, I think you're going to a little bit. So he had suggested, or they had suggested, that we bounce in Kola, and I was like, I might be happy to do that, but also Poland's giving me weird vibes, so I kind of want to go to Narva to prevent a year one bounce there. Essentially, we never like set on bouncing in Kola, like we never confirmed it, and I think it was like around New Year's or something, and I had so much going on around New Year's, and I just never got back to him about that. And of course, he ends up in Kola, and I go to Narva, and suddenly, this is about the worst position Sweden can be in on start. The only thing I have going for me is that Shifty did not lie to me about like trying to go to Bergen. We had agreed that he wouldn't go to Bergen, and thankfully, he followed through on that. But yeah, so things are looking extremely rough for me straight off the bat. But
Guessing on 3 out of 4 of your home centers, Umeå, Helsingfors, Stockholm, and
oh my
having
god,
them guaranteed to get into Helsingfors, that has to be
I
really rough.
I was extremely I was extremely ready to throw in the towel. Genuinely, like I was so down after phase one of this game. But yeah, we can I'll seed and we can keep going for now because
Yeah.
I don't think I have a ton else to talk about.
I
Other
was
than
quite
that,
happy.
Poland. Sorry, go ahead.
I was quite happy because I saw that and I thought, oh, wonderful. Sweden isn't
Yeah,
really bothering me.
Sweden isn't a problem. Yeah, I was gonna say that Poland made it very clear through their press that they were just gonna try to kill me. They didn't sugarcoat. They didn't lie to me at all. It was like, I think They tried a little bit, and I was like, I don't understand what your move is here, other than trying to like how you're going to do anything other than kill me. And I think they replied with magic, and I was like, okay, he's just gonna he's trying to take all my dots. You know, he's gonna try to kill me
He
here.
just joined in here, so hello, Poland.
Yeah, hi Poland. But it was very clear, you know, that
It's like Beetlejuice. You say
we
their
were just
name
gonna be at
3
war.
times, and
Yeah,
they
summoned.
appear.
But yeah, that's my year 1 or my turn 1, I suppose.
Poland, do you VC talk, or am I gonna have to open up chat here? Okay, I'm
Chat.
yes. Okay. In that case, just know that we're reading it out. Anyone in here can read out your messages in chat. We are recording this. I don't know how long this will end up being, but we'll
It's gonna be
we'll
based.
try. Hey, if anything, it'll speed up toward the end, right, guys? So
Probably.
okay. What
I
now?
think we should split this up in like 3 sessions because I don't think that we will get past the second year today.
Oh, absolutely.
At least not if,
yeah,
if
a
everyone's
three-part
gonna
would be
tell his
good.
field plans. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
A
And
two-part I would really hate
Oh.
because I want to be around for the end of the second half. But
Sure.
three-parts
I
would
would
be
not.
good.
I would not hate splitting this up into different sessions. Let's put a pin on that idea and just see how far we
Yeah.
can get. Anything else from
Are
year
we
one?
going?
I think that
Going
covers.
full then?
There's one interesting thing. I don't know if you already talked about it, but I don't understand that French move from Réunion to Mascarency. I don't get it. It's in Madagascar.
Madagascar.
Oh, reunion to Masca. Oh, yeah.
Mascarency borders no supply center besides Réunion.
Border, maybe?
No, see, this is funny because yeah, you'd think that it
Ajuuran
borders
was like-
Sakalava, but does not contest anything in the Cape, does not go into Indian Ocean and do anything here. It's just, you know, it gets them on the border with and that's why they were like trying to lay claim to Sakalava too, because they just thought they could border it. But
It's quite scary for Ajuuran, I would have thought. Except actually, they'll be able to build before he gets anywhere close. So never mind.
Yeah, I think it's
exactly.
good.
Yeah.
And it's a mentality I wish more people would take with early attacks. You win by covering or taking the core center, year one. If you're just threatening it next year, no.
Yeah,
That's not-
early stabs are really bad because almost everyone is doubling, so they can just build and respond to that.
Mhm.
And then you've lost your alliance and your tempo.
Yep. All right. And
Let's go,
someone
guys,
has
Wall.
put in public square like the dates for the different press. So
That was me.
thank you for that, and we'll just we'll keep an eye on that. Fall.
Can I point out my misorder in India?
Let's see the.
That was
disorder in
really
India.
funny. I was so mad at you. I was so mad.
I knew this because that was one thing I knew
Polygon.
was gonna happen.
Yeah.
And that to Madras.
Madras and
It was
Madurai.
twofold.
So, what do you mean it was twofold?
Because I thought you. Is this not the misorder? You meant to let them go into Hyderabad?
No, I don't think so. I think I meant to hold that. I think I just meant. I'll
Yeah.
check what I was talking to Portugal and Mughals about that. What date is this, by the way?
This is gonna be January 2nd. So I actually
Okay.
go like I fly to Morocco through the 1st, and I land, and it's the morning of the 2nd, and I the fall turn processes as I'm like unpacking my stuff in a hotel.
Like, yeah, I saw that misorder and I was like, right, I need to build a unit in both centers there every year for the next like 3 years, so I don't just get crushed.
Yeah, over investing is definitely the play.
You'll see that was, and then I like ended up with an army that just never did anything for the whole game, which was a shame. Okay, January 2nd.
Yeah, so that was
it.
the misorder in
Yeah,
India. I'm sure Mughals has some opinions on this.
I remember. first thing I say to Portugal January 2nd, how important is it that I bounce Mughals in Hyderabad? Hyderabad? They go, what else could that army do? It's just one seat, one centre they're not gaining. And I go, well, firstly, because he thinks he's playing us against each other, and it's advantageous to us that he continues to think so.
Not
And also
necessarily
because
if it's a bill that's.
No, they don't have to think that we are working with them if they just die. So
no, but they're not going to just die from us bouncing out. And because I was getting good information about his moves, I think. And information about what moves someone's planning to do is very valuable because that's what I had with Mali. And then I got 5 centres in Africa or whatever.
True.
That was the other thing. I'm
yeah.
keeping Mali out of an SC, and I don't want to look like I'm working against regionals all around the board.
There you go. That's the answer. That is the most valid of that because I
Yeah.
think that there's very like one
I want to
center
do, like,
off of
stay
year
friendly.
one is nearly as important as like 2 or 3 centers like in a later year because it's all about momentum.
But
I
one centre
understand
off
your
year
point.
one, he's like, okay, I'm just going to build. I'm not going to build on the north front, and I'm going to just focus down. I can go, hey, I'm dealing with Portugal and England, they're allied, and then sweep us both.
Why didn't
True.
you go to
actually.
Madurai there?
That was just a straight misorder. They're 2
Yeah.
letters different,
Madrai,
or whatever.
Oh,
Yeah.
no.
I have plenty of those later on. But
I did not notice those, unless those are the ones that
ooh,
you
well,
misordered.
well, that's what we call subtle foreshadowing. But yeah, so that's India. I'm sure that was really frustrating for you, Portugal, but you very seamlessly doubled here, doubled in Oman.
I mean, it was good for me at the end because I could get Madurai. I just told England, hey, I'm a bit mad at you because you missed out on it. So if we want to work together in the future, give me Madurai. And I mean, England had no option.
That's glorious, actually. Um, I see it at the corner of my eye, and I'm not sure how I wanted the this colonial region to go, but I knew I didn't want the Dutch to get mind controlled to go into Luzon. That was I have no justification for that. I knew the Asian triple was coming. If I could not put up a solid defense against them, then I was preparing to do what Spain did in A2C and just have them disband all my units in the fall, then take my centers in the spring in that order, so I could just reinvest elsewhere. And this made me go, okay, well, we're just getting forced out of the region. That was maybe calling it a little too early, but I just knew how solid an Asian triple was when people full committed to it, and I was not detecting any treachery among their members. Um, I remember sounding the alarm to Ayutthaya and even Mughals. I managed to get that press out, and so they were also doing their best to put up a front here immediately. I was talking to the Dutch about maybe working together to crush out Ayutthaya. I did not necessarily see that this is all just one colony for the Dutch, though. And maybe this shouldn't be seen as trying to get into Manila, but I felt like it. It made it so that I couldn't necessarily leave and go elsewhere with my fleets if you're there. But we'll see how that goes later on. Um, yeah, I mean, everything else there is kind of straightforward. In the Med, uh, I succeeded in mind controlling my own power. If the Asian triple was mind controlling Dutch to go into Luzon, I was doing that with the Ottomans by making it really obvious that I wanted to threaten Tunis, but I don't necessarily have to go there. If he covers it, it's the same difference. Um, I thought about going into Tripoli. Athens seemed like it's the same difference. I get forced out of the center, best case. But with Athens, at least my unit doesn't get disbanded. Whereas Tripoli, there's actually a decent shot it does if the right bounces happen in the like the season it's getting removed. And I'm moving into North Africa, seamlessly doubling here. and causing some ruckus for the Ottomans. Without even an ounce of hesitation, I tell Austria they can have Rome. This was bold. I did go to Corsica. There was a chance that I bounced France here if they were lying about leaving me Corsica, but I thought the bounce was more important than getting into the center and Sardinia for free. I don't know how tactically important that was. Kinda, but not
There,
super
Back
much.
to the Asian triple real quick. In retrospect, I think that Kuroshio Current to there is such a misplay. It should have gone down to Philippine Sea. Because it's
Yeah.
just too slow to put it in Okinawa Trough. It's just too slow.
I think that you're not wrong. It takes and the infiltration options you have are too numerous for me to counter, except by keeping
Yeah.
everything here. But to your credit, I think I don't know how much this was relevant, but I was under the impression that I was kind of like a fifth columnist for the triple among the colonials. I had really good press with Ming. I had used the fact that I played Ming in the last game that I played, and I had done an Asian triple just like you guys were doing. And I was offering my earnest advice the entire way through. I said that, but I did mention how if I was going to cut out anyone from a Asian triple in the future, because not all the Asian triple, not every member of the Asian triple in A2C won that game. Only I did on Ming. I told them if you're going to cut somebody out, the easiest one to do that is with Toku. And while I had a really passive one, that's not going to be true in all games. You should do that sooner rather than later. Which
And we'll see that that
I'm saying that because it's around here where I'm saying these things, and I'm noticing that like, okay, well, they're getting into this area a lot faster than I thought. I am hedging my bets. I'm talking up everybody to maybe resist you, but I don't put a lot of cards on that. That's interesting though. That's interesting that you think this is slow. I was like, seeing this, I'm like, they're in Philippine Sea
I think
next
it
year.
doesn't press the issue fast enough if you're asking what I mean by slow.
Yeah, I think you infiltrating down the Halmahara, all this stuff would be scary and shut
Yeah.
down our ability to even stop IU, which
I
hasn't
think,
looked yet.
and I'm mainly thinking about it because of what happens later, but
Yeah.
it feels like going to Okinawa Trough here is just setting up the line to stalemate essentially.
Yeah. Well, that's next year's problem. Um, I suppose I'll offer in South America. There was, I do what I do, and I'm actually fully bending over backwards to satisfy the two regionals here. I am talking to Mapuche. I'm talking to Aymara. I'm saying that like, y'all should deal with Portugal first before fighting each other, and that I'm also up here, or maybe not that specifically, but I'm just like, look, whatever outcome you guys want, I might not necessarily be able to get involved, but you know, the issue will come up, and if you want me to do something to give you a free hand or whatever, like, let me know. To both of them. And none of them made any aggressive moves against me in Galapagos. In Peru, I avoided the dangerous Aymara opening that they could do here to immediately shut down my ability to play in the Amazon, but luckily I make it. I do mention to the Dutch that, like, what the hell's Carib doing? Why is it here? It can bounce me in Putumayo. And you know, I didn't say exactly what they could do, but I was like, why is it there? He's like, well, to deal with French, of course. Okay. um, this was a bold move. I stab Dutch here. They do this around here, but I talk my way out of it. I just didn't want you to build here. There's so many other fronts that you could build on. uh, I don't think they had a choice in tolerating that, especially when they're under attack by France. Especially when France is asking how we'll continue to fight the Dutch here. Um, that was a thing that had happened. Up in the Caribbean, me and England do negotiate here. Like, I'm not going to walk away with much in the Caribbean, and that I'm letting them have their reign here. I thought France would put up more of a fight, though. I obviously asking them to bounce Antilles current might result in them leaving a center, but letting England into Antilles, I don't know. Give
All of
yourself
that
as
time,
much distance as possible.
all of that time, I was trying to persuade France to swap his 2 centers in the Caribbean for my 2 centers in Newfoundland.
Ooh, so
Just
but
to,
they're
so
not
I
even well
didn't
set
have
up.
to, because I didn't want to have to station loads of units around there in case France stabbed me.
Hmm.
Like, I wanted to. Also, Port Royal to Massachusetts Bay was
That's
so weird.
such a and this is a friendly move?
It was not planned, and I went to France and said, "Hey, what the fuck was that?" And I don't think he gave a satisfactory answer.
Yeah.
And then nothing happened. I just sort of like, although it gave me some like ammunition for if like, okay, France owes me 1. If I stab and it fails, I can just go, "Hey, remember when you did that weird move with Massachusetts Bay?"
Yeah.
You know,
I do notice the beginning of the Portuguese colony in Brezelautomat, which lasts way longer than I ever thought it would. Um, it was like,
It's very sad that I lost Brezelautomat, I think, 2 years before the end. That was so sad. I managed to hold it for the entire game without having a unit even close to it. Like, so I didn't
yeah,
have a single unit in the North Atlantic Ocean for 80% of the game.
yeah, and I have more to say on that later on, but you had no right to keep that at certain point, especially with the powers around it. But yeah, perfect storm, I guess. One thing I'll say is around here, I was just so paranoid over what might happen if I try and self bounce here. I don't know exactly how the tactics work out, but because I had assumed I could just self bounce here and build a Nueva and then generate a pretty decent attack in the Pacific or against Ute generally and act against them a lot sooner than I thought. But I noticed Sonora could potentially support Apache out. I don't know exactly how that would play out, but in my head, in a hotel room where I can't simulate anything, um, not even with like my arrow drawing, I just thought that like maybe the outcome is that I leave Apache and and cover this core, and they get in, like and that was just like unacceptable.
Yeah.
So,
It's
so
actually
yeah.
Aymara was in my ear telling me I should do that.
And is that Ute?
Yeah, that's
Well, welcome.
Aymara was telling me I
We
should
didn't.
do it.
Yeah, we didn't introduce you yet, but that's Carson. He's the Ute, and yeah. If Amar is telling you to do that, I mean that's consistent with them all game, honestly. But
To be honest, I told Aymara to go to Ute and make that suggestion because I thought that it would actually be the best move. But if I talk to Ute, it would be obvious. Yeah, Spain's best friends is here to convince you to do something, which is guaranteed good for Spain. So I knew I had no chance, but Aymara had one. And so I went to Aymara and asked him to speak with Ute,
the
and they
scheming,
did.
this is like Iran Contra. It's like Portugal said, "Wow," and that's how I knew that this is not. I have to bend over here a bit and concede this a bit. My intention was not necessarily to concede to such a generous deal over North America. I wanted to barter for Baja. I thought, if anything, like I didn't contest Hawaii, but if I could barter for Baja, yeah, it's near your core centers, but that just means it's so much easier for you to retake.
I remember Ezio saying that Spain is deceptively weak in America early.
Yeah. Well, I just think they are. I just think that changes once you have more builds coming in.
Mm-hmm.
This is the area where you're not necessarily going to double. Like completely. This is where you get the Spains that do 30, like end on 30 year 2 instead of like 30, 32 up from 16. Like there's too much
I
space for luck here.
will also say that I initially let Shoshone have Hawaii because I was hoping that I could maybe influence North America to remain a battle royale, so that I would not have to worry about any threats coming from there.
That's not a bad idea, but I was already telling Ute that I think that we could police the North Pacific together. Together we can rule these seas. So I think
I mean, in this first year, I established my alliance with Inuit in the north, which is basically precipitated on the fact of I'm never going into the sea. So I left the sea to them, regardless of what you guys wanted to do with it.
yeah,
And yeah, they were quite happy with that. We also agreed not to be coring either Tachone or what's the one next to it, like Dinner or something. I don't know.
these
I
two?
can't pronounce anything here. Yeah, the one Inuit's walking into and the one I've supported from.
I see.
We
Yeah.
agree we're not coring them, just so we're not treading on each other's toes.
Oh, but what a
And
core
yeah,
this would have been for later on, right?
even then, it's like if you build double fleet, you kind of just get bottled trying to get out of there. So it's not even that
Yeah.
great.
I think the drawing
Yeah.
here could. Well, I actually know this from the other end of things. This is a bottleneck in both directions, so I'm not even. I don't know.
Yeah, that's it made my coastline feel safe because if you try get fleets in, you're also getting bottlenecked as well. So yeah.
In some respects, I think I went to Inuit around. I think I had thought the exact same thing, that even if Athapasca and Inuit are the ones that end up winning here, I said that like there's still a place for me in that structure because together me and Inuit can do things in the Pacific, and on land me and you can like do things on ground, which actually is a self-fulfilling prophecy. I was just saying that because of what happened in A2C, where all three of these powers collectively dominated North America. And Spain didn't even end up that poorly by the end of that, I think. My memory might be failing after like half a year since that game. But yeah. Shifty, are you still here? He might be quiet for right now. Does anyone else have anything to say about fall of this year? Or anything interesting that they had noticed that isn't just the finalization of things like France realizing they can't get into a center and so on. Um,
I could speak a little bit in Europe and Sweden
yes.
if we want to. So this is it. It's just very weird situation up here. So, starting out, Russia and I actually had decent press despite our problematic history. It was very clear that neither of us really wanted a war in Finland, just because it's kind of a slog up there. But they end up in Kola by mistake, and everything we had talked about, any plans, like our friendly chat beforehand, it goes completely out the window because they are obsessed with getting something out of me now that they have found themselves in Kola. And they initially say, I want Helsingfors and I want Narva. And then we can talk. And I'm like, you have one army up here. I'm not giving up half of my starting center count because there's an army in Kola. I would rather wall up in Finland, let Poland have Stockholm and turtle essentially as Sweden because Sweden, can do that. And I don't remember exactly what happened, but I think they came back to me after a day and were like, "Hey, I convinced Poland to assist me into Helsingfors, which frees up all of your other units to go get centers." I was like, "Now we can deal." Like that is essentially the best thing I could possibly ask for in this situation, right? Knowing that I don't have to cover anything with the three other units that aren't in Narva, and I can go and grab centers. Just going +3 as Sweden in this situation was so wild to me that I managed to be able to do that. But from there, basically, Russia and I are both planning. I honestly don't know how this happened from this position, but Russia is essentially planning to turn on Poland here, get a free build off me year one, which I don't think that unit usually gets. And we agree that we're going to turn on Poland together. And I honestly don't know how that happened. But that's really all I have because Middle Europe was extremely quiet this game otherwise, in terms of press. So
I think you did what I would have done here and just say that, well, my home centers will not be empty if I can build there in winter. So
yeah,
it just
exactly.
and they might be banking on the fact that you go back to your home centers in bounces. So those who dare win, as they say. So good job getting out of this as much as you did.
Yeah.
I'll admit I spoiled myself since France isn't here to defend themselves at all. They their void reads to me like they aren't playing a game of diplomacy. They are playing a game of like E4 or something. Like just very aggressive and expansionist and in love with this Napoleon concept. Which we'll see how that works out with them. I think stuff like this happening and them calling other powers warmongers, like I think that's a little beyond what I could understand personally. So yeah, med happened. Mali has a decent turn. I mean, +2 isn't the best for Mali, but considering everyone around them, it's okay. Ottomans getting as close as they are to Abyssinia.
Yeah, I wanted to ask, like, if he has any insight on that, given I have no idea what early Abyssinia did.
Yeah.
So I kind of went back and forth on whether I was going to betray Abyssinia, and we ended up just working together until you took over.
That's unfortunate.
I thought that would like mean that since we had history, that would carry over, but you didn't see it that way. It
Like,
seemed.
I'm gonna say a lot when we get there, but it's gonna be like maybe next session. So go on.
Jeez.
So yeah, I did make a couple of moves against Abyssinia. They were rightfully like, "Hey, what are you doing? Are you gonna go somewhere with this?" And I dialed it back. As for the med thing, I pretty good mind games. I thought that there was no way you'd think I would go do anything but go Marrakesh. So I was like, I need to keep my ports open because otherwise I'm going to get overwhelmed here. So you're definitely going to think I'm going to go Marrakesh. So you're going to go to Tunis to take that from me to get rid of my port.
Yeah. And I understood the Marrakesh idea so well that in our negotiations for like how we could walk away from this, I'll say that I think I said something like, yeah, like I get Marrakesh, including that in the things that you're conceding to me, showing that like I think you're gonna bounce me in Marrakesh. Just yeah, that was one thing I did there, but yeah, you keep going though.
So Athens as well. I don't know why I stayed in Sarajevo. I don't remember what the deal was there, but I left Athens open because I was pretty sure you weren't going to go for it. And but you did.
I think that like because Sarajevo's also a Mediterranean port, I would have bounced here. I think that this can get like lost sometimes in the implication of if I don't go for Athens and you go for Athens, well, you still have Sarajevo open. Yeah, I don't know. I was very happy with this. I was actually a little worried that this isn't going to be as safe as a move. But I also think that like because it wasn't that safe, that it ironically was kind of like guaranteed to work. Like, look at all these units around it. Surely this this doesn't go through. And Tripoli is also like, there's no way. Like that's obviously the
Yeah,
more appealing.
I was sure you'd go for Tripoli.
Yeah. Well, because all of our talk was about Africa, but I don't know the despot of Epirus. He called to me. I don't know. Then, I mean,
I think
Austria's going pretty
Aju
strong.
said something about dotting Nantes or something like France, that he wanted like you and Portugal to go for that. So
I did bring that up. Around here was the time I'm actually trying to, and I didn't even realize Portugal was already wanting to do something like this. I wanted like a an Indian Ocean sort of agreement between Portugal and Ajuuran, just to lock this down, defeat France here, undercut the Dutch, because I was already kind of making an enemy out of the Dutch and the French long term. So I I wanted, if I wanted Portugal as an ally, I wanted Portugal to be safe in the Mediterranean, so they didn't feel the need to grow off me.
yeah, but somehow like Portugal did not tap Nantes, so Aju did not like Portugal for that. So
Yeah, and it would have worked this year. We'll see. We'll see what happens later on. Um, as
I
for
can't
oh,
actually remember, but did you even ask me to tap Nantes?
I think
So
I did, but
there
I'm
was a
not too
really
sure.
intense discussion. There was a really intense discussion in my void because one or two of my stacks wanted to go for Nantes, but I wasn't sure what to do. I I didn't want to burn all bushes with thorns,
Hmm.
so I decided against it. But I think I took Nantes in the next year, anyways.
Yeah, I think one of the reasons why I wanted this is because this is France with 5 home centers in Europe. It, I I just know that like they could put a lot of stuff down here, and I don't know. I don't like having this guy on my border when it seems that they're already growing a lot in North America, and their colonies, even though they're weak, they're indicating to me that they're not going to reinvest there. And so that just means instead of doubling in the colonies, they have to like quadruple in Europe or triple in Europe, which is concerning. Um,
One thing, France was making us uncomfortable in North America because whenever we talked to them, they, much like all of you, were being fairly vague about what you wanted. But France would not tell us what they were up to, but they would insist that the North American colonies they saw as a key cornerstone in their French Empire, which we took to mean they're going to be investing heavily in North America.
Yeah.
Which is a downside when you let your grand strategy actually make its way into press. Because if you were thinking that, okay, I will give up these like smaller colonies, double down on investing in the larger ones, and getting all my growth from there, well, it's not like you can be friends with anyone in that region. There's not enough room for you and them to win together. So that happened. Even Austria, I mean, this indicates that Austria was thinking that France might even be friends. And I remember my press with Austria, who I wanted against Ottomans at that time. I was talking with them about what kind of arrangement they came to with France, and they said, well, France seems friendly, but like, they're not. They're killing the Dutch and are going to come west to go fight me. So but France then was surprised that Austria was like upset with them because it's like France seemed to me like a first order thought player. I go into this one season, I do one thing. The consequences of my actions only pertain to what I did against someone that turn, not the implications of what might come after. Um, yeah. Uh,
Honestly, I can't remember what I thought of France. It's been quite a while. I do. I remember like the strategic position that France and I were in, but I don't remember much about what they were like as a player. I remember that they were very keen to go against Netherlands heavily in Europe,
which only
which gave
results in like 2 centers. But
but
yeah.
it was kind of inevitable. Netherlands is gonna get, and also in North America, I think they were, but that's like the 2 places that Netherlands is inevitably gonna get crushed unless they do exceptionally well.
Yeah.
which left me a choice in Africa, actually, an interesting choice in Africa, because Portugal really wants to go against Mali, and Netherlands really wanted, also wants to go against Mali, but France really wants to go against Netherlands. So I was kind of in the middle, thinking, who do I stab first? And I managed to. I'm quite happy because I managed to toe the line, telling both of them, "Yeah, I'm on your side. Tell me what moves you're doing, and I can work around it." And then I think Mali told me they were thinking of bouncing Netherlands somewhere, or whatever. And I was like, "Okay, sure, I'll bounce Netherlands there." And that was it. Mali told them they were going to bounce Netherlands in Ajuuran, but wanted me to bounce Netherlands in Ajuuran, and they went for the other one instead. And then I'd leaked that to Netherlands, and it's not my fault if Netherlands didn't hold up on their promise to Mali, and I just happened to walk into the center because of it. I did that for a good few years before either of them caught on, and then I stabbed Mali in a few years' time for a good chunk of centers, and then they don't forgive me ever. But that was sad. But yeah, I think that's one of the things that defines my early game, is kind of being everyone's friend and working with everyone against everyone. And I just got so much gains from being able to sort of lead false information. Maybe not false information, but by knowing what everyone's doing and making everyone think that I was following along with their plan.
Yeah. I think that this might this might sound a bit undercutting of that point, but the I was hearing as soon as year 4 and year 5 that the powers that are supposed to have anxiety about you were not that eased up on it, and there was very much a well,
Which ones?
particularly Athapasca, because of how
Oh
dominantly
yeah, North
positioned you
America, I
have
had no
inherently.
plan.
Yeah.
I had
But
no
I will
plan for North
say you
America
did
and everything
navigate
else.
Africa really well.
But yeah,
I didn't hear
Africa,
anything from any of
India,
the regionals, but
Europe, that was the three that was happening in.
Yeah, we can talk about North America when that comes up in a few years.
Yeah.
So with the fall out of the way, and Mapuche getting into Australia, whatever. The retreats this year, just Russia got into Derpent. I don't even know how important this is to any of these three powers. Everyone seems kind of balanced here. Uh, Moving on to builds. This is
It
maybe, I
is the
mean,
start of Safavid. That was what Ottoman was talking about, choosing
oh,
Russia as an ally. I think that was Ottoman helping Russia against Safavids. And that's the
oh,
start of
right.
Safavids getting
Yes.
crushed.
Yeah, I sort of forgot that Safavid's just subtle
First casualty, I
foreshadowing.
think. Yeah.
Um, this fleet in
Oh yeah.
Astrakhan being the
Fleet
second.
Caspian. I remember everyone memeing about that.
It's never a meme. It's always who does it
It's
first, and whoever does it first, it's over for the other one. There's no justifying this build in any world. There's not even really a world where this gets disbanded unless you just lose. So, here's hoping
yeah,
that,
once you build it, it's
yeah,
there for life.
yep, because it needs 2 to get bounced out, and there's no way you're getting rid of it.
Not just for Christmas.
Yep. The Everyone else just doubles for the most part. I think maybe what they decide to build is important. Ming noticeably not building any fleets. Portugal building in Macau instead of elsewhere. I think that is a little, or actually both Netherlands and Portugal building in here, which makes me think that maybe it's not so hopeless to fight off the colonials here. Um, 2 fleets in Makassar and Manadao instead of in Batavia. Fleet in Timor. This is very tense. This is a very tense situation, which means if we want to hold everything together up here, this needs to resolve equitably as well.
Yeah, but it's
I
Netherlands.
vaguely remember the Dutch managing to piss off most of the people in the game.
Yeah,
I
no,
heard that
I had
too,
no
and I
idea what
had
Netherlands was
no
doing.
idea what they did. Like, that's my exact reaction as well. Like, why?
Well, France
Like,
had it in for them.
true. And maybe
They were
that
also just
panic
really
is,
slow, really bad at press. They didn't reply for ages.
Yeah, even I heard that the Dutch had pissed everyone off. And
Just
yeah,
by being silent.
To be honest, I think I got 14 builds, so I had to build everywhere except for one was in Europe, and I think one was in South Africa because South Africa was already overcrowded. And I honestly had great relations with the first Dutch player. We had a great plan. I just messaged them with we are the worst colonials. Let's just stick together, and this really helped me everywhere out. So we had a great relation, and then they subbed out, which was really sad.
Mm.
I will correct Portugal a little bit on that because it's no build Lisbon, no build Azores, no build Cape Verde, because you were at 29. But this shows me that you were really friendly to me, and I reciprocate by not building super terribly here. Though I don't remember why I did Fleet Canaries. That is not a friendly build in my opinion. I think it was just that I couldn't build in St. Augustine. But then where's the... Oh, and that I was covering Nueva Vizcaya. So it was kind of justifiable.
Yeah.
In a different
a
world, I
first-time
build Army
colonial,
St. Augustine and move it into North America further. But oh well.
Yeah. As a first-time colonial, I was very intent on getting builds down on all of my little colonies
Yes.
as much as I can, like especially Africa, because I only have one core there, and it's such a crucial colony, I feel. Because
Oh yeah.
I wanted to be building in Africa 1 unit per year every year, and not like losing anything there. That was why I was so pissed about the misorder in India, because that was one, not only a center I was losing, but it was a core I couldn't build in.
Yep.
So yeah, you'll see it. I start to lose ground in there quite fast until I can just pump builds and then put it back together.
I remember
And
seeing
then I
this
overdo it.
and genuinely thinking that Mughals might actually take it all here.
Yeah.
And that was a large part of it. I thought the Hyderabad containment was essential to that, but I don't
If
know.
I had got another build, it probably wouldn't have been essential. If
Yeah.
I'd, built.
I also think nothing being within range of Kathmandu, like obviously in range of Kathmandu. I see
Yeah,
Kabul
that's
here.
empty for a while. I think they're just pocketing it.
I would have put my build in Sassuran here. Just defensive options around Bamo and Kathmandu. I don't know. If
Oh
this
yeah, that
goes
was it. I
down,
think
yeah.
they also broke promises to me about fleets. Firstly, moving it to Orissa, and secondly, building a fleet in Kolkata.
Yeah.
Having told me they wanted to work with me. And don't worry that I already said the same thing to Portugal. Haha, it's fine. Yeah. I was not working with them after that.
Portugal and I agree with you, like just demonstratively, about the smaller colonies thing. I thought that maybe colonials can give up smaller colonies for reinvestment into larger ones. I disagree with
I
that
don't think so.
completely now.
Yeah.
Like after playing it out, my success came from over investing actually. Like the bigger colonies are the safer ones. So don't feel this a ton of pressure to build in there cuz if you're going to lose there, it's going to be slow. In the smaller colonies, if you win, you're going to win big just because of how much is around you.
They're designed so that it's really easy to gain like at
What was
least
your
one center from there, and that's 2 centers you've gained basically for free. And then you can go on. They've all got like development paths from there, and you're giving up on so much if you give up on your colonies.
Yeah.
Forgive me if this is a little bit ahead, but how much did you net gain from like Philippines in the end?
Oh geez. Well, it's a quarter of my centers at the end. That might be a
And
little
it
bit of an
starts off as only
exaggeration.
2,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And it starts
And hey, same could be said about Portuguese Persian Gulf. Like what?
Yeah.
So
Like,
yeah,
the thing you have to bear in mind as a colonial is that if each of your cores manages to produce units that take like 3 more centers per core, that's all you need to win. You need to take 3 centers per core.
yeah.
And so giving up on your small colonies, you're giving up on builds and cores,
In a part of the
which are
world
so
that you have
valuable
no
to you.
other way to access or influence as well.
Exactly.
And it's not like those parts of the world will stay isolated from you forever. Like maybe as not even as Portugal, maybe as Spain. If you do lose Philippines, it's not the end of the world. But like they're only a
Mhm.
couple years away from your west coast, so it's not like you have to stop doing diplomacy with them. Yeah, I don't know. There's not really like a well, actually, here's one thing. France could totally just like sell South America and not have to worry
And
about down here.
Netherlands
But
in North America.
true. So in that sense, they're
But
fine with those powers. But and if
yeah,
you do want those alliances and you do want to weaponize those alliances against your enemies, that's good. But that also means you're probably putting up a fight in order to help them out as well. If you're, having that kind of war. Um, I think, yep, Sweden puts down the builds that stabilize their position here. I don't think any of these are wrong. I don't. I remember saying something to the effect of, I don't think you should have this many armies right now, like next year or the year after. Like I don't know about Army Gothenburg, to be honest. I understand Army Trondheim being very good defensively up here, but I think a fleet being able to get supported out into Skagerrak and from there, I think was more important. But
I think you could be right. My um my strategy, as soon as I realized I had Russia actually on my side, I just wanted to get into Denmark as fast as possible. Um, Again, I'm
well,
trying
you had Russia
to.
on your side at that point.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I didn't fully trust them, but we had been talking through the whole thing, right? I don't. You might have been gone, Shifty, when I explained this, but
Maybe.
I essentially agree to allowing them to walk down from Helsingfors to Narva over the course of like the first 2 years or 3 years of the game, so they always have a build from those two. Um, in exchange, they and I are working against Poland essentially.
Yeah.
And when I realized that that is likely to happen, I go back to my initial strategy of just trying to get into Denmark as fast as possible, just to try to gain any sense of Swedish momentum. Um, I sort of went in thinking that one of the biggest traps for Sweden is overinvesting in fleets, actually, which I think a lot of people might disagree with. Um,
I think it can
but
be a
I was,
problem because if you win with the fleets, you get stuck with the fleets.
where
You
do you
can't
go?
disband them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. And so I wanted to avoid overinvesting in fleets, just because I knew I went through a bunch of A2 games and saw, even the strong Swedens had like every center in the Baltic, right, covered with a fleet, but they never got very far beyond that. And so I think that's probably where the Gothenburg army is coming from. But again, going to Skagerrak could have been better. However, I did, Shifty was being extremely accommodating,
Paranoid.
and I didn't
I
want
was
to.
hoping you would throw to me at some point. If
Yeah, yeah.
if
So
I came out.
he was
I
being
just
like
read through my void and read I was hoping you would throw to me.
super nice the entire game, and so I didn't want to step on those toes, especially when I knew I was basically in a death war with Poland. Um, so yeah.
I was looking for a convoy option into Bergen or like Kiel or Bremen, basically the whole game, and I
Yeah,
didn't
you'll
find.
see me just covering
Yeah,
Bergen
you
multiple
were very good
times.
at covering it. Like
Just
into
in
Kiel
case.
and Bremen as well. I rarely saw one that would be advantageous, which is a shame because it looks like a great convoy through Wadden Sea into Bremen and Kiel, and you just core up there, and suddenly you're a continental power.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted, right? I wanted to be on the European continent like as just as fast as possible.
Basically,
To create a power base there.
like a little colony, like
Yeah, yeah.
This is Sweden is one of the powers that I am most infatuated with and want to play at some point. If I'm taking a break, but for my fourth campaign, or I guess my third, which will be in B 1.3 or whatever, if they're still calling it that, I will
Yeah.
have this be my first pick.
You should. It's very interesting. It's very fun.
Yeah.
I
Either
enjoyed it
that
much
or
more than I did
Russia.
Mughal.
Either that or Russia, but I'm not gonna lie, I don't like the Siberian change. I like the look of Russia on this map infinitely more than having a Siberian tundra there. I'm sure tactically it makes a lot more sense to
I
have it be
really
a
like
tundra.
the change to
but-
Inuit.
I know you love the change to
Give
Inuit.
as an Inuit player, I want to go back to Inuit, see how they are with the change, because there are actually Inuit peoples in that region, so it does make sense.
Okay. I mean that's build phase. I think that's the longest anyone's talked about a build phase before.
Yeah.
One thing.
Oh yeah,
Army
France.
Port Royal as well. Shifty. Like,
I mean,
Goes
it's
all
better than
armies.
Fleet Port Royal. I mean, where is Fleet Port Royal supposed to go?
I
I
suppose,
mean,
but
I think the
still.
problem there though is it's France's signalling, because that them saying how North America is very important to them is bad enough, but then us regionals, we see them put down 5 armies in North America, and that makes it fairly clear what way they're probably going.
And it
It's
doesn't
also
matter if England's
because
here or not.
I think I'm not sure. It's like France was at that point. France was asking me to stab Netherlands. And then a bit later, Netherlands asked me to stab France,
Well,
which was, but I can't remember what I said to. Hang on. So the move to Massachusetts Bay, I was like, "What's up with that?" I was expecting you to go to Capo Mules,
Do we want to go forward
and
and start talking about?
all they said was there seems to be a lot of land, and the fleet can only swim. And I was like, "Well, yeah, but it would be useful." And then he explained he was like, "Everything's spoken for in the north. Why would it be helpful there?" And I was like, "Why would it be useful in the south? If it's in the north, at least we can, swap Newfoundland at some point."
Also, let me
And
just
also we
cover all my
agreed that
home
it
centers
was
here, huh?
yeah.
Yeah. Dang.
He said maybe I'm missing an optimal strategy here. And then I was like, yeah, let's swap Newfoundland for your Caribbean colonies.
Oh, I remember that.
Who's saying that? Sorry.
Me, Athapasca.
Oh yeah, Athapasca.
Because we had a laugh about it. Because I know what happens. But yeah.
The
Oh yeah,
I think the
kind
only
of
thing that I have to mention more. So I will move on at this point,
hang
but
on.
I was just barely able to
All he says is he wanted the maximum amount of armies in North America.
Oh. Wow.
So yeah.
Well, we'll see how that works out for him. Just quick, very quick. I have to accept that Aymara built another fleet. I completely acknowledge that like Aymaras get contained on the ground and having coastal supports are helpful. There is no talking them down from it. So that at the very least, I could look like I'm accepting it. Fleet Quito is slow. Army Lima makes sense for getting control here, but yeah, Fleet Quito is slow, and it's just whatever. Um, I don't remember any of the moves on this turn. Uh, who wants to start? Because I could, but
I think you just start. I think that's
sure,
easy.
sure. I'll start with Mediterranean. Getting more armies into Africa is my goal. Me and Portugal do a pretty standard swap here. I think the one thing that is a bit interesting is that I take Canaries, and I'm thinking about where it can go because I built it now what? And I say let's just go and see where I can go into South Atlantic. If maybe I'll make it the whole way. And if not, if I detect Portugal is doing something, I'm right here and see where it mounts. Any of their West Africa is mine. In North America, I don't remember how I justify this. I think it's that everything's gonna get Kongo lined out into North Pacific. Ute is knowingly anxious. They're not making a move against Athapasca. I am sounding the alarm about gross ventures because I want it to be more of a big deal than it is.
I
Yeah.
I had permission to go there. That move was agreed on beforehand.
And trust me, I know what it's like getting permission for moves, and getting the agreement beforehand. Just because you've allowed them to go there does not mean that's good for you for that they're in there. So I hope that
At this exact point, we were we were actually scared of France. I think later. I mean, I
Oh
don't want
yeah.
to speak ill of those not here, but I think France made some moves that made us not scared at some point, or made me not scared. But
well,
at this
maybe
point, it
it's
was
starting
concerning.
now. I don't know. It might be starting now, but I was scared of
North
France too.
America, I can explain what France is doing. Yeah.
That's the trade we were agreeing.
Yeah,
That was it.
Right.
Once
Like
he
that is a trade
moved
that's
King
happening, but
Massachusetts, I started explaining fully my plan to trade, because then I can just lock down Caribbean. And unfortunately, that gains me so many centers that I'm very scary, and I'm actually looking around. Where did I gain like +8 centers? And oh, it's Caribbean, of course.
it's all Caribbean. This is not only a double, it's a triple. You triple off the Caribbean because of how many
But then
centers you gain.
like, because I made him in a deal with you,
Yeah.
I'm not really going to expand into you. I can't
Right.
grow more in the Caribbean, so I can't actually get the quadruple I need. So maybe I should have planned to expand, because I never planned to expand into you, but maybe I should have for the quadruple.
If it got you to the win, that's one thing. If you got short of it, then I don't think it would have been beneficial. But that's just me. And I'll explain that later on. The South Americans I'm watching very closely, but I am getting better positions. This is the first of 10 stabs against Aymara. um, that I think is very funny. Was there a Dutch sub at some point that came in, or
There were
was
like
this
2
just the
Dutch
Dutch?
subs.
Yeah, the Dutch play that the old Dutch player gets everyone to hate them, and I think Firebender takes over from here. And I actually
I think
decently
there's a
like
sub in between
Firebender.
that. I can't
There
remember
is a sub at
when.
some point, but I'm just referring to the fact that there is a completely new
But
player
yeah,
that takes over from year 2 onwards, because I associate that with them going from, hey, Aymara and them are not having a great relationship, to, well, now they're mind controlling Aymara to go to Madeira to Putumayo. This was a Dutch suggestion. Um, if my press is to be believed, I will look into this later on. But the I decide that, like, I'm gonna go continue to crush the, like, whatever cluster of centers are up here, get lined up, control the Amazon. I need to expand in South America more. This doesn't seem right. This might does it
oh, I
feel
think
right?
I think that's
can't
the turn you
remember.
have issues with. Caracas was meant to be going somewhere, I think.
Caracas might
Yeah,
have been trying to go somewhere. And is
it
this
might have been
Panama
the bot
South
8. I
Coast?
remember the bot 8 some orders, but
Let's see.
I can't remember.
Oh, no, it is just a bug with the map. I end up in Caracas. No, I end up coring Caracas, which is
Oh
just like
yeah,
a holding move, and then it goes to Colon Ridge because I said I needed more Pacific fleets. I didn't even recognize that with the
is
Panama
this
build, but
this might be the turn I stabbed Netherlands.
we'll go back.
But it was such an ineffective stab
Yeah, you're
because
in
all I
Southern
got was basically the centers they were going to give me anyway in North America.
You end up
So-
self-bouncing in Boston out of fear. Dutch were supporting you against Seneca, but you get supported into Philadelphia, which would have been given to you.
Yeah, I think so.
Assumably.
Get a guarantee in New Amsterdam as well.
Yeah. Then, if I'm looking around,
I think I
oh,
tapped them in Africa as well, but nothing happens there.
this is what I threatened to do as Ming in A2C, but I never had to do it because I pacified Portugal. This is what happens when Portugal tries to put up a resistance in South China. Armies everywhere coming to kill you. Yeah, and especially if the Qing are working with them and all that. I put a fleet out in the Philippine Sea. The Dutch are able to take Okinawa Trow, and this fleet has to go to Fokien Strait now. There is actually what looks to be the start of a line getting formed against the Asian Triple Fleet. And I'm like, maybe it's possible that the Dutch can hold on to Formosa here. And is this correct? Do I support or oh yeah. Manila probably should have went to Luzon, but me and the Dutch aren't the most coordinated. There might even be a world where we can get the Dutch out of Formosa and putting down a third fleet here. And likewise, I'm getting my fleets out of the Philippines, getting up against a Ayutthaya, but not much else. England and Portugal end up having a pretty good turn against India here. If either of them want to voice up, now's the time. It just seems pretty solid tactically. I don't think Mughals had the units to fight both of you if you're all coordinated, even with England's misorder. And then they did what I would do, which is just put as much units as far out as you can to harass and make it complicated. But Hyderabad is just the center of all their aggression, so there is no way this is like surviving the turn.
I
What
will
happened
say
to
real
make
quick
that?
back
It just
to
went quickly. Sorry. Was that talking about India?
me.
Yeah.
I was trying to go back to the Asian triple real quick because I
Oh
remember
yeah, no,
something.
So
go
Asian
into
triple
that.
then India.
So I think it's very easy to tell that this is one of my first times playing diplomacy, because I was the one in charge of all the fleets over here, and
You
we
know,
will see more awful moves like that in the future.
honestly, me and Ming are it's like poetry, it rhymes. You know? Our little guys are just going at each other, and my dog in the fight won this time, but we'll see. This
What were you saying
is
about India? That I
just
think
that
because I
like I actually
went
think it's
the same
fairly
way.
straightforward, and we've covered just the dynamic going on here. You and Portugal
Yeah,
are working very closely together, and I think you win in the long run.
yeah.
Not
It sucks that I have to give Portugal Majuai. I think that was one of the things that they demanded. I'm not sure why.
just they wanted to
But
get a better
they
position.
wanted it, and I was like, sure, it's a bit threatening to me, but there's bigger things to worry about.
I
The
think
plan behind
having
Madurai was, if I have a fleet in Madurai, I can easily move to Gulf of Mannar and step for Ceylon. And of course, having
I was planning to stab for Ceylon.
and having an additional SC is just great.
That was the
And
plan. That was the plan. Like, if I go to Majuai, then I can stab Netherlands year 2 for Ceylon, and also
yeah,
Africa
in
and
my head.
Europe and North America. But that was another reason why the misorder screwed me over.
I just wanted to point out that in East Asia,
no,
Portuguese
I
Macau is
just
just
saw that.
so bad.
Yeah.
It's literally impossible to hold if Ming is human. Even if Ming gets coalition in the first year and everyone attacks Ming, you still can't hold it.
Hang
Ming
on.
can guarantee it if they want. It's just so annoying. My plan was just to sell Macau for someone, just to put Spain or the Netherlands into Hainan, but no one wanted to take Hainan for obvious reasons.
I would have, and
Mm.
I do, but like it takes a bit. I understand your point though. The this is really hard to hold, and I think I said at some point that I actually wanted you to start working with at Ayutthaya, and I think I tell Ayutthaya that if you go aggressive against Ming here, like Portugal has a chance to hold their stuff, and I just think that you guys were fixated on like Kunming going to Guangxi or these options here. You don't have like good options. This goes to Hokkien every time, but I don't know. Here, I think is a missed opportunity because there were a lot of units along Ming's entire defensive line. These can't really come crush you, and I think that there's a world where you have better chances. But that is in the past. What I was I was laughing a little bit about this. I was wondering why this didn't work. Can anyone else tell me why this didn't work?
It's invalid because the fleet can't provide the support because that's not connected.
Yeah. So evidently, this is France's first time playing
Oh,
diplomacy as well.
was it?
Yeah.
I believe it's
No.
it's definitely their first imp dip game.
Yeah,
I remember
yeah.
them telling me. I don't know if they've played other games.
So Bara needs to be in Maha.
Oh, it
If
reminds me of
I'm
Poland
super
in
happy.
A2C.
yeah.
Spain, do you
Um,
remember Poland? A2C.
not particularly well. Did they die?
They like walked out of
Oh
7
no,
centers or
yeah, they
something year
died
one.
so fast. They died so fast because they just didn't understand like anything
They
about
first time
tactics.
playing diplomacy at all. They didn't understand what dots were, and they just sort of walked out of Brandenburg year one into Saxony
Oh dear.
Yeah,
and another
that's
one in
Like
the Caribbean, so they got like
I
2
like
kills
this was my
year
first
one.
game of diplomacy ever as well, but I like informed myself before that, like reading some
It
rules, I
was
guess.
it was a shame because they were being so nice about it, and they had like one spectator who I just pinged in and said, "Hey, please teach this person how to play diplomacy."
oh. Now, this Poland is in a similarly bad position as even though Sweden barely Sweden at this point Russia is working with you, right? Like,
Yes, yeah.
okay, this is
After
all
trying to extort me
arranged.
for Narva and Helsingfors, we got over that and we
Yeah.
work together the rest of the way.
You do the right tactics here. Everything is lined up. Um hell, you even get into Norwegian, which is like and England's here in Greenland Sea. That I mean, if I was Russia, I probably do need to make peace with you here. I can't cover Spitsbergen and stop you from going into Barents. Um, okay. Though Russia lining up like this on Kiev, now that you probably have their support, like from this phase onward, this is just going to retreat to Pskov, and we know. Oh, even more. Well, no, this army dies. Yeah. But it's decent tactics. I think that Russia thought they were getting Mughals here, but oh well. Also, I screamed the alarm about the Asian triple, and Russia was one of the first people I came to because they came from a game that had it. They knew the threat, so it's good to see that they took it seriously. I don't think Mughals did as much because if they did, they would have gotten into the bet here. Um,
I think like if you go to Africa, like as I said, I don't know anything about early Abyssinia, but Ajuuran said that Abyssinia stepped him there,
oh
and
yeah, this is pretty
and
bad
that's
step
why he
too.
couldn't step Portugal. So I think that like set up very much what happens later in Africa,
Oh,
like
Hang
Portugal.
on,
absolutely.
with what you were saying about Greenland Sea and Norwegian Sea, this is Spring 43, isn't it?
Yep.
Yeah. I've looking at my press to Sweden on the next. It's well, we don't threaten Spitsbergen as such.
Mm,
You'll see when you go to the next one.
I gotcha.
This is the one of first of many annoying things about Greenland Sea.
I can imagine. Uh, then yeah, I think everything is pretty standard otherwise. I should have pointed out the Abyssinia stab. This is very consequential. Congo and Mali cooperate pretty well against the colonials here. I believe there was a big anti-colonial chat, but it doesn't go
So yeah,
anywhere.
like definitely I found some press channels about that, even they were inactive. But I think like the big plan in the beginning was like all 4 regionals in Africa working together, like going outwards towards the colonies, and yeah, I think Abyssinia just broke that here very
Because they were
early.
siding with the Ottomans, which I don't think
Yeah, and then
is the best play for Abbey, but you know.
and then like I just read some Mali propaganda about like Abyssinia being the one who stabbed Ajuuran. And
Yeah.
yeah, I think for Ajuuran that's like pretty bad because they can't follow through to go for Portugal, and yeah.
It would take a lot for you to tell me that this is a Safavids that will be dead in a few years. Because it looks not great, but the situation is like it could be worse. There's no Russian unit in Turkestan. They killed the one in Khiva. Like it's
Dunno.
okay, but
I
the
feel like that fleet in Caspian Sea is pretty devastating, though.
it is pretty devastating, and it's combined with a Portuguese Oman that is not being stopped at all. Ottomans withdraws from dealing with this actually, which is
What was your
crazy.
thoughts behind that, Ottomans? Maybe you can talk us through your Mediterranean and Portugal.
I don't remember why I withdrew from Portugal, aside from I was hoping they would help me with Spain.
Yeah, I thought this was a thing because of this actually.
Like your armies there, if they go north, they like have nothing to do for like another year or two, you know?
Yeah, it's. I really don't know what I was thinking with this, aside from
It's units
I,
on the board that you can use immediately, but I think it's just short-sighted, and you acknowledge this, so.
yeah, as for Mediterranean,
Well,
Like yeah, as that's a good point as well. Like as you said that, like how did Portugal get into Keshem? Like what did you sell? Like
Okay, my plan, I had a really detailed plan about how I want to deal with the Near East, and I basically said to Safavids and no one, I know I'm starting here with an SC. I can't really do much. I'm just a puppet. I will do everything you ask me for, and I did everything. And the plan was to convoy their army into Richard, supported by my fleet, and I just stabbed them, went into Quesham, and I think I took Bandar Abbas in the same year, but I'm not sure about that
that's
because
insane. The support into Rustak with this army instead of just going to Khuzestan. That's another level of like trust that I would never give another player. My goodness.
I mean, I really explained them. I had like, I don't know, 100 messages with them. I think
And
I lied to them so much. It's a bit sad.
and they died
Too
because of
close here.
like that's like, could you press someone to death? That's a yes. That's what you
Yes,
did.
definitely.
Damn. Um, the Dutch, I mean the French, I I don't know how I talked France into this. Um, I was talking France into moves in South America starting here, and it was, hey, Cayenne's like safe. We need to get Bellum. And I was telling Poland, hey, Cayenne's gonna be open. You should go for that. And I'll be right here, happy as can be. You're welcome to grow here. We need a
yeah,
coalition
but
against England or whatever.
like seeing what France is doing all over the map, I think we can just agree that it's
Oh,
like very rough to work and with that. Like he's doing
so
such weird things.
France North America's moves is partially my fault.
What is the Hog
And
line?
that's because, well, I've seen they're building armies, which means they want to attack someone inland here. And I'm trying to avoid them coming north and attacking Kree. So we talk about that and talk about basically DMZing all those provinces that begin with A,
But
just
how
across
you
the
ever
middle.
take that as France? Like I just look at that. I play French right now in another game, and if I see this, I would all like move 3 armies north, and you do nothing there anymore. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah, but I said we'll DMZ them, and I said, I mean, you could attack England. They didn't want to do that. they suggested we attack Inuit and said they wanted like basically all the East Coast stuff, and I basically said I can't do that because you're getting all the easy centers and I'm left stuck trying to push through these choke points. So I eventually say, like, I can go south and you can come across and we can attack Shoshone together.
Like
With
now
the
he has
intention of actually doing it.
like now he has to like funnel 5 armies through Fort Detroit. That's like
I didn't tell him he had to funnel them all. But yes, France conga lines because of this.
so
And I'm
weird.
amazed. Because
Yeah, I think this was like the turn that started planting the seeds in my head that like, oh, France maybe isn't actually a threat in this game.
yeah,
Because I was looking at this and I'm just like, there's just no way they don't just walk up and take Cree before these moves happen, and then
yeah.
these are the moves that happen.
I was still expecting them to go north. And one of the things, if you go up slightly, you see the Inuit fleet comes into Hudson Bay.
That's to help you with Cree, actually. That's not a threat
Yes.
at all.
They were invited in, and they were there to support my position in Cree.
I was
against
so
France if
confused about
necessary.
that.
Yeah,
No,
we
I
trusted
see
each
it, though.
other very early, basically, and
I
we
had
won
a
that.
situation like that with my Athapasca, but it didn't go into Hudson Bay.
Oh man, that was an ATC. But
Well, I did go
yeah,
into Hudson Bay, but that was when they stabbed me. So
that's this
I
is just
like just
cinema.
seeing that as a
Like,
French
wow.
player in another game just hurts me.
Um,
It's like
yeah, I'm
Well-
gonna try and find what I said to France there.
Oh, and I will
Where is it?
clarify.
In France.
This is just the finalization of me conceding to England in the Caribbean. I leave Havana. I go for Belize. I don't move Chittamauga to Muskogee to contest St. Augustine and also threaten Catawba or Cherokee. Like in a world where I'm working with Ute, 100%, it's Caddo, Muskogee. I contest 3 out of the centers here. But then I have the Caribbean to
when I
worry about.
like
So,
seeing this,
yeah.
like being the English player here must feel great. Like you have like a French player who's like not very good but plays with you. You get all of that in the Caribbean. It's like
Yeah, France told me they need to go west and crush Ute. The Cree moves, or lack of them, was to convince Athapasca to work with me on that. I would like them to attack the Inuit. I'm not sure if this was the right move, as I basically throw a coin. Well, yeah, that's generally why you don't.
Noticeably not flipping a coin. Throwing a coin is actually very.
Yeah.
That's a really good.
Before we go to the fall moves, I want to
Although,
mention.
Sweden, are you around?
There are a couple of cases where flipping coins is a pretty good idea.
I think Portugal wanted to mention something.
Yeah, I don't talk that much because most of my game was in the southern half. And like, besides Ajuuran, none of the guys here in the voice are in the southern half. But first, to Safavids, I offered Safavids that I would go into the province called in the Persian Gulf and convert them over, because Persian Gulf is one of the only club there. I think there are about 5. It's an entire game which border 5 SCs. The Persian Gulf is one of them. I think the other 4 are Gulf of Mexico, Bavaria, and I forgot the rest. Anyways, South Africa, Ajuuran convinced France to not build any fleets in Madagascar. I don't know why, but it was great for me. So that Ajuuran attacked me wasn't that bad because I could easily grab Madagascar. And can you please take a look at South America?
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
Because I think, yeah,
was
that
the
was
one
my
place
biggest
that-
mistake. Yeah, that was my biggest mistake in the entire game. I think this mistake costed me a potential solo because I worked with Aymara against Mapuche, and then you attacked Aymara, and Aymara got a bit paranoid. And I didn't realize that. So Aymara was in a position where they desperately needed 1 SC or 2 just to build a units to defend against Spain. And I didn't realize that. And they couldn't get any centers from Mapuche that fast. So the correct play would be if I just offer them to take Asuncion. I think it's pronounced something like that, I have no idea. And just give them 1 SC, keep them on side, so we can we can cooperate against Mapuche. This would have maybe won me the game.
Yeah.
Because in the real game, they stabbed me and worked with Mapuche for the next, I think, 2 years before I managed to kick out Mapuche out of Australia, and this really slowed me down. And there was a time where I had to defend 3 SCs in South America with 7 fleets, which is really ineffective, but I had to do it because you can't give up any colonies as Portugal.
Yeah,
Honestly,
that's what
I
we were
think,
saying at the beginning.
yeah, I could have won the game if I would have realized that I just need to give 1 or 2 SCs to Aymara. But the problem is I'm a bit too greedy. Best example is Bratalit. I am a really greedy player sometimes.
Hey, this
But
was
Yeah,
that's
not
everything
greed.
on my
like
part.
This was
like
hoping.
that's like, but that was like when I talked to you like later down the game, I also felt like when someone like a small regional, I had like 7 CS at that time, like asking for
Mhm.
anything, you never wanted to give something. Like you were like willing to work together, but like when you needed to give
Yeah,
something, you were like, nah, I'm not doing that, and that was
but
like,
that will have a different reason because the main difference
yeah, let's talk
Portugal
about that later, but
claims
whatever.
completely different. Oh yeah, okay, let's talk about it later.
That's what I've
Are we
got
gonna
for
split
this
this
year.
into 3 parts, or are
Yeah,
we gonna
I'm
just
thinking we give
yeah,
this. Well, this is spring. Let's give it.
yeah,
Uh, let's just. I think either 44 or 45, whatever we get done with in like
yeah.
half an hour or so. Um,
I kind of want to hear Sweden explain their moves around Greenland Sea next year.
Sweden is cooking dinner, so he's telling us
Ah,
that he's not gonna be.
but
that is going to be
I can
interesting.
speak
wait,
to
who?
Scott.
Oh, is that Russia?
Oh, there's Sweden. Never
I
mind.
remember Sweden. So maybe that's I'm getting confused. But no,
So
yeah, Inuit gets into Greenland Sea, and I was like, yeah, what the hell is happening with Inuit? This is
I can
also
see
the
how
time I
Russia does
decide to
that.
stab France,
Ooh.
but it's basically
It wasn't that effective with
yeah,
the North
it's
Sea
not.
staying there.
Sweden's doing a good job covering Bergen. Look at Newfoundland. We were supposed to. I was hoping they would go to St. John's, and I would be able to bounce St. John's and build there, and then I'd take their Caribbean colonies, and I wouldn't lose my Newfoundland.
No,
But
they're
instead,
very
I just covered up my
straightforward.
own build straight to St. John's.
Yeah, that's the thing about this France players. They're very straightforward. They're like, oh, we're doing the trade for Newfoundland. Okay, I guess I'll just plug in there.
I think I
This,
like specifically mentioned St. John's in my press to hope that they would just like go, oh, I should probably take St. John's, but it didn't work.
yeah, they
So we just
also
pretended it didn't happen.
classic
Pretended it didn't
just
happen.
walking behind their own units. They have to do that here, not necessarily, but they do that here again. It's just a
Mm.
Yeah, they actually Congo line and cover up their build potential
yeah.
quite heavily there. Which
Like I
means
can't
even
get
though
to
they
Ute, so I have to go this
yeah,
way.
even though they go north, which I suspected they possibly would, it's not really a disaster. I put Inuit in over there and take one for myself while yeah, Utah's advances, gets into Missouri, and is positioned to take Iowa next year, and we shall continue to press our advantage against France and work together
Oh,
for the rest of this game.
I've
Yes.
just realised this is also the turn I stabbed Marley, I think.
Wow. So
Yeah,
fall of the second of year 2. That didn't take that long, actually.
yeah.
The Portuguese getting their expansion in Liberia is
Because the
whoa.
Netherlands sub is much easier to work with.
Yeah,
And
Firebender is a lot
also,
easier to work with. I don't remember how long that lasts for me, but
um,
oh
yeah,
yeah, I just
also
removed
I
them
see
both off
that
the trade.
everyone wants to kill Marley. And I think, well, especially because they were doing really well in the A2. So I was under the impression that either we kill them now, we kill them quickly, or
Mali can't, like, as a
they
colonial,
just
you need all your
stick
colonies to
around.
double. Mali
Yeah.
never leaves your colonies here. And your colonies
Yeah,
are
I
so
didn't see.
small that
This is what
it'll
I said
never
to
work.
Marley. I said I don't see a situation where you get even to maybe 10 centers and leave me alive.
In that sense, removing Mali from the game was pretty good. That was a pretty good decision.
Well, we didn't
in
remove
the
him from the
patches.
game.
No,
That's
no,
the
no.
thing.
I
But
mean more so
yeah,
in like the
trying
big
to.
picture patch notes.
So,
Oh
Mali
yeah,
came
I
out
see
as
what
a
you
power
mean. Yeah.
completely. Yeah,
like if
because
you're in
there's no
Africa
way
right
this
now.
works. And then what
Yeah.
else is going on in Africa?
Yeah, I think given Abyssinia stepped the African regional quadruple, like Congo is allying with Ajuuran here. It seems like I was wondering when I picked up this game, like Congo was in my capital, and yeah, I see
Yeah.
now. I see now how this happened.
Yeah, Congo being like Congo, Mali, and Ajuuran being like this African sort of union sort of thing. That I gotta admit, it was a pretty effective alliance because they sufficiently checked Portugal here. France is still frustratingly like doing really bad.
I
Well,
mean,
so let's go into detail of that. Like, is there any specific tactics around the Ajuuran border, or is it like?
Just getting into their capital for one thing. And then you go into Axum because Abyssinia goes into Axum because they're scared of Ottomans. Ottomans goes into Aden though, and I mean you
Oh.
disrupt the core successfully, but I don't
I
know.
feel like letting Congo in get so deep. Yeah, this looks like pretty bad for Ajuuran because Ottoman gonna jump on that for sure if he's smart. Because like, what is Abyssinia gonna do? Like, oh.
There's no world where this, even if you finish the core, there's no world where like this gets left open. So I don't know. I wouldn't. I would. I know they like to do this for the army build. No, no, this is a waste of your like 8 units at this point in time. So that's how I view that. In the med, my offensive continues to work decently well. I get into Gadames. I go out to Ionian, which ends up losing Naples. Uh, I have to accept this, and I frame it to Austria as I would have let you have Naples at any point in the game if you had just asked. Why didn't you ask me? I debatably would not have done that. Having fleets in the Eastern Med are dependent on me having Naples, and so from this point on, I don't really have a good presence here. That is like guaranteed. Apparently, you know, so some things happen, but I am pretty sure I'm gonna end up with the Western Med, and that's it, and not much else. Over in America, continuing my conga line out to keep Uday on side. Utay does this conga line, which is really entertaining to me. They have 4 fleets at this point, which is a lot. Down here, I slip into SPO. Interesting.
I think they're still here if you wanted to ask them about those fleets.
Not much
Me?
about asking for the fleets. I think why they have these fleets is obvious. If anything, Tokugawa has more to
Yeah.
ask.
Oh,
about
this is
the...
actually this was a funny turn for me and Tokugawa. I don't know if Tokugawa's here. But
Oh,
I, during
I'm here.
the agreed upon negotiations between us, because we actually talked quite a bit about what this fleet was doing. I think if you go up a little bit, like scroll them up a little bit, I want to say the agreed move was to bounce and corrects. That was
Yeah.
publicly agreed upon. Like that is what we told each other we were going to do.
And we were both just blatantly lying to each
We
other.
were both blatantly lying to each other. It was very obvious to both of us, and so we didn't do that.
Well, you
Which
got,
led
you got an
to
agreed
Bounce and
upon
Edo.
bounce and Edo that wasn't spoken of. Like,
Yeah.
as for this, I have like it's so over and we're so back turns this campaign. This is it's so over because there was barely any coordination with Netherlands. I think if we look at the date, this was the year that I went IRL from Rabat to Tangier and so on. And so driving around and plugging in orders while I'm on the road with like roaming data essentially, that did not work out, and I could not coordinate with Netherlands on this defense here. Had I
I will
done
once
that,
again say,
yeah.
This is another regretful. Why am I not going into Philippine Sea? Why am I not just breaking this front wide open? Why am I focusing so much on? Why are we putting like 3 fleets around Taiwan?
Because Taiwan must be reunited with China. You're even putting the Chinese fleet to be the one to go into Formosa here.
Yeah.
This kills the Dutch fleet here, by the way, and
Yeah.
sets up to where like I give up on cooperation in the defensive line, though you don't know that, and the Dutch don't know that either. So somehow Portugal's well, I say somehow Portugal could have done a bit better, but like Portugal doesn't care who owns Hanoi in either way. So it's a bit regrettable what happens there. I also am playing both sides here. I tell Ayutthaya the Dutch moves, and then I stop Ayutthaya from countering those moves, and I'm like, listen, I won't do that again. That's my bad. I just need Dutch to look like I need it to look to the Dutch like I'm fighting you. Smile. Um, Meanwhile, the Dutch are politely moving out from Makassar Island, and the Portuguese and Dutch actually cooperate on containing Mapuche here, which is nice. Retreat, or I guess, is there anything else that happens significantly this year except like Dutch dying pretty egregiously? In
What's
Europe?
that long troll line to Transylvania?
That would be. Oh, we got a little deflection. Hey, Mapuche. um, it was supported. No, that's why it's a deflection. It's because it's supporting Saragossa Oc to Transylvania. That's pretty creative, honestly. Yeah,
I
poor.
guess you want to mess up the map. There's like plenty ways to do that.
Oh, plenty of interesting moves. Oh, we didn't even like close the loop on this. Yeah, the Russians do betray the Polish here pretty badly, actually. Um, yeah,
Yeah, it sucked.
and then the Dutch get into Lubeck at the same time as the Polish get into Bremen, which is a musical chairs ass thing to do. Utrecht is lost, but Amsterdam is kept, which in by the way, that's not necessarily a safe thing. Like this army could have blown up, and then it's like,
Oh, aren't like Orleans and Ghent both dying? Like, oh,
uh,
they just bounced. Ah, they bounced. Oh my
they
bad.
just bounce, and then
Yeah.
Austria self bounces here. Like I said, around this time, I'm trying to get them to have peace, and I think Austria recognizes before I do that even though France is a threat, and that these armies could be anti-French, the French are the kind of player to where if you just say you're friendly while you're stabbing the knife into them, they might take you seriously and think you're their friend. Like, so they're willing to do a little bit more turn of setup before they go west here. And I should have recognized that around Naples. Me and Portugal being best buddies. I'm continuing.
Sadly, Ottomans isn't here anymore, so I don't know what his and Abyssinia's agreement were, but yeah.
Yeah.
Somehow he stepped, somehow he did not. Like, it's kind of weird.
This is just him continuing to act on like coming out of here and going up against Safavids. Just
I mean,
concentrating
around
their
Aden,
forces.
and Havara.
Yeah, I have no
Like,
idea what the
What
if
like
this-
he's taking Aden, but then he's moving Tigra up, so that's kind of weird. But whatever.
It's to Suakin though, which does threaten
Oh, never
two
mind. Yeah,
centers.
sure, right.
So maybe this is
Right.
just a full stab. I forget what my press with Abyssinia it was at that time, but I think I said that like you should have moved on Ottomans, and they're like, yeah.
I think Abyssinia there has no room for going anywhere.
Especially with this coming their way.
Whatever. I'm pretty proud of turning that around. That's cool.
Yeah. So we're at the retreats.
I did indeed
Oh,
take Nantes, and my void was so happy about it.
yes, I was happy about this at first, and then I suddenly wasn't. I was like, awesome! France is getting like undermined like crazy. I never have to worry about them again. And then I'm like, but I mean, even though they have so much
Sweden, you need
resources
to
here, I kind of needed them. I think I realized I did kind of need a French on my northern border. Retreats this year were just units coming off the board, French deciding that they'll do a. So this is the origin of that one French colored Labradorian tile. Yeah, the pretty standard. Oh, and then yeah, the South American front goes pretty well for me. I end up getting the French to continue to undermine the Dutch just enough to where like the Dutch are still friendly to me, but they don't know that I'm undercutting them the whole time. Smile. Clean map is, or is this built? This is clean map, I think. We don't need that one. No, it's out of order. No. Really?
I can get cooking item here.
Yeah, someone's cooking.
Gee, Sweden.
Listen, when we said let me cook, that's not...
Sweden's gonna crush Poland with their culinary skills.
Oh, of course. The builds look pretty normal. Sweden finally corrects and does build a fleet here to get more units in the west. England continues to invest armies into North America. I don't. That's interesting.
You don't.
I guess I don't. The Polish.
And
Were you
France
investing them in
doesn't
East
defend
Asia? 'Cause-
Guadeloupe.
Yeah, I think your builds were a little sparse at this point, if I remember correctly.
And I think you were trying to focus on holding on to East Asia too.
Do I even get
against
builds?
this.
I don't get. I don't.
Oh.
No,
It's like
wait.
you built something there. There's a build in the Philippines.
Is it because I disbanded something though? Because the
I
number
think
does
so.
not
I
go
think
up.
I remember that. I think I remember
Yeah.
that. I think you had something like forcibly disbanded or something, or you just didn't choose to
I
retreat it and
must
had it
have.
disband.
And I
So
needed
that you
it to
could
go
put
there.
more. Yeah, because
Huh.
this is what solidifies that front line and makes it just impossible to break.
I don't know why I didn't do the same with Macedonia then. What the hell was that still there?
I mean, you were kind of beaten with
I think
Ottomans.
no, I actually do know why. It's because I don't think the Austrians do betray me here. I'm thinking, you know what? This is a fine fleet actually. This is a damn fine fleet. Okay, this will continue to get interesting.
The
with
English
that-
position here looks so damn strong. Like, given that they're gonna step France, it's scary. But yeah,
Yeah, if you
Yeah.
go look at the builds in North America, you can see some armies there.
There are. There's also a fleet Bermuda and fleet in Africa. And the armies coming off the board are not exact, like they're around the centers, sure, but it does make this very tactically simple for these
why?
powers.
Like, I think England is going here, but like, why would you build a fleet there instead of an army?
Because of the, I mean, I just see it as like you put it in a Gulf of Guinea, and there's a good shot you get one of these three.
Oh, I see.
Even if there's like questions around holding these four. I don't know. Yeah. You also don't want a fleet here from the Nether, but no. Especially when you got the Portuguese. I don't know.
Yeah, Abyssinia needs to disband. That looks very bad now.
And that it had to be Axum is just like, I understand why you're gonna accommodate the Ottomans because the press is probably just the Ottomans wanting to like kill me, like nothing else. So giving them any reason to like ignore this and go up here, ignore this, go up here, probably correct. And they're probably gonna core something up here instead and use the builds from the wars that they're fighting here to kill you later. But
Like Ottomans can just like take free dots there, in my opinion. But
no, they are free dots completely. I agree with that take. I think that the tension is just
luckily
like
he did not.
yeah. Yeah. Well, that said, Portugal getting the two builds here, and then me getting my fifth one here. I think I say, fuck this Dutch unit here. This is impossible. Not completely, because there are only two adjacent units, but I also am looking at Philippine Sea, and I'm like, oh no. So I think to myself, this is something that can happen. I do not like Ayutthaya killing this. This was the biggest mistake, and for their game as a whole, but also this was them like kind of throwing to Ming that I gathered from press. So
Lots of throws around this area.
somehow you can throw twice.
No,
I don't.
there's no throws in this game.
There are no throws in Ayutthaya. Just yeah.
I
No.
think it's
Rename Indochina to Throw China.
Or just East Asia to I don't know. It's not going to be a funny joke no matter how I spin that. The Russians
I
are
think it's
doing
worth
actually.
mentioning.
Oh.
Oh, sorry.
No. I was just saying the Russians
No,
are doing
sorry.
pretty decently well overall. I
This
don't
is
think
around the time that I went to Inuit about the Athapasca stab that I think kind of shaped how North America was for the rest of the game. Not that it went well for me, but it did in fact impact North America quite a bit.
I mean, you're in Aleutian Islands. You know?
That was, I mean, they told me I asked if I could go there. I asked if I could go to Aleutian Islands to build to stab Athapasca. I think that was basically the arrangement was that like
Whoa.
I was gonna go there to get another army so that I could kill Athapasca more effectively.
If you had a passable France, like, oof.
Yeah, that was the agreement. And I don't know, Athapasca, did Inuit tell you about any of this while it was happening? Like at what point?
They told me that they were giving you the Aleut Island, so I knew you were getting that. But I did know you were going up like +2 this year. I was expecting the army probably goes in Shoshone if you're building 2 because of the relationships you had with Spain. They did not tell me that they were discussing stabbing me with you. But we were coordinating against France separately, especially due to the fact that if you look north of like Papanachos or whatever, France retreated north and didn't take that build off.
Yeah,
And
I
that
thought
move,
it was so fascinating that they got rid of Dakota instead of because I think Dakota is still a pretty useful unit.
It is a lot more useful. It could get supported back in Ojibwe.
Yeah.
This is just dead. There's nothing there. Oh. No,
but
this
yeah, no,
is yeah.
yeah, before the actual spring moves, I did some talking with, I mean, both Inuit and Tokugawa actually about what a stab from you looks like this year. And my conclusion was you don't get anything on your own.
Yeah, and which is always what I knew, but I thought I had Inuits coming with me, which well,
Maybe the
spoilers.
Spanish press had something to do with that. Maybe just a little bit.
I mean, I was also sat here going, England's clearly stabbing France this turn. That means if we're to get anything out of the East, we all need to go now. We can't fight amongst ourselves. And also, if you go north, you leave your south open to Spain. As such, I wasn't too concerned about the stab if it happened. But I did think
And
it's
it
less
obviously
likely.
won't happen.
No, it would never happen. Why would anyone do that?
Yeah,
With
but-
such a big threat emerging from England, Spain, and Portugal, how could
Oh.
anyone consider stabbing in North America?
Oh, this is the year I started raving at people because I would talk to people about the danger of you and England working together specifically, and I would be told in response, "Oh no, it's fine. I've spoken to them and they keep saying how they don't trust each other." And then I respond to them. I go, "Look in the Caribbean. Just zoom in there right now. Look at that. Does that look like England and Spain that do not trust each other?" And it, yeah, that does not look like England and Spain do not trust each other to me.
Like, look, I cut a deal where I gave them the whole Caribbean, but I don't trust them. Those
Clearly
fleets
not.
could come attack me at any point if they so chose, and I could,
Yeah,
like, geez, guys, like, if you attack me, I mean, England just solos here, if anything. Yeah. Listen, putting yourself in a really vulnerable spot actually comes with a lot of trust. So that's up until this is 44. We got through 2 years. Oh no. It's also 7:40. Do we think we got it in us to go another year and make it a solid 3?
I don't mind. Like
Yeah.
it's
I'll
1
go for
a.m.
more,
here
yeah.
now, but who cares?
Sure, sure. So I guess this is this is the first time where like the map goes down and we have to use this format. At this point, do we have like sorry, let me check the date that this is at. This might be the first year I'm not in Morocco and, and finally home and able to plan things out. So this is spring of 44. This is January 14th. This would be the last day I'm in Morocco. So not quite. I move an army to Nueva Vizcaya. I support myself into
Yeah, this
NPO2,
was a
You need to
bouncing
zoom in a
myself.
bit more because it's
no. This was I told you to go to NPO2, and I misordered myself into NPO2 also.
Yeah. For a second, I was
The
totally willing to take credit for this as being yet another thing I
no,
misorder.
this was my fault. The idea was we were gonna go fill in NPO, then like Death Laser Edo,
Yeah, that's
and
right.
then
We were
and
gonna work
then
together against Japan.
yeah, oops.
This single-handedly blew that up, by the way.
Yeah,
Wait,
I
what's
mean
anti-me? Sorry.
this
So
basically blew up
Japan,
my
remember
production.
this? Remember this butterfly wing that we made in the NPO?
Oh yeah.
Um,
What was the point of that again?
so Shoshone told me you're good to go into NPO2, and they put in NPO3, and everything worked out, and we laser beamed you and Edo in fall. Um, no, the reality is that Shoshone went to NPO2 as well, and so now I have NPO5, Berlanga Ridge bordering Hawaii. And there's also nothing in Well, actually, everything stays in
It's kind
place.
of issues.
So it stays. Why did I think it was a good idea to stab you then? I don't know.
'Cause
I think I
you
just
I
yeah.
don't know if you
I
stabbed me.
think
Do you not
it
stab me
was.
next?
I think it
No,
was Shoshone committing to attacking Athapasca,
Athapasca.
and so basically it's like, ooh, wide open land to run into.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's
and-
just
yeah, but
these two
Um,
tiles, and then I had a really good guess that Arapaho would not stay there. Anyways,
Like, it's
I
just-
think there
later.
was
That's later. That's later.
It's
there was
your
also
classic,
like
you left your back exposed stab.
Yeah.
I also think that part of it was that I think up until this bounce, Spain thought they or maybe I'm speaking for you. This is my read. Was that you felt like that I had a lot of power in the Pacific and that my tempo could be really useful for dealing with Tokugawa.
Oh yeah, momentum wise, it was great.
And then I ruined all that momentum with that butterfly wing, and all of a sudden I'm like not that useful as an ally anymore.
well, you ruined all my momentum, that's for sure.
I did plenty of momentum ruining. Don't worry.
So that is true. And had this worked, I think had that worked, I would have seen so much more of a use for two Ude fleets that are potentially along the border with a Tokugawa that's still hostile with me. And I'm just like, the balancing is not great. I would basically be trading Philippines for Baja if I went along with that. And we can make so much progress against Japan together if we just work together. If I didn't convince you that we laser beam Edo, we would have laser beamed Kuroshio, and that would have been so helpful. For anyone wondering what this is, like nothing breaks here. They don't go for Formosa yet because everything's supporting everything, and we hold. And yeah,
It's just impossible to break pretty much because I don't have enough fleets out into NPO.
Yeah, but just remember, it would have been a lot worse had you not get an Okinawa Tro. Ignoring the fact that would have meant you were in Philippine Sea. Anyway.
Yeah, see what I mean by like the momentum from getting into Philippine Sea earlier would have been really.
Yeah. I think that Ming probably could have gotten away with just going into Hainan directly. They didn't need to like crush it out of Guangxi. If anything, you would have crushed them against the coast here. This is just giving them the chance to run around in Bay of Tonkin and stuff. But
Yeah, that's kind of bad to be honest.
yeah.
Unless the point is just to have them harass Ayutthaya.
I
Totally, like
suppose.
England is gone here, but like what's happening in India and
Yeah,
especially
but
West
honestly,
Africa?
Yeah, we'll
I
look at
as
this.
Portugal, I don't really care about what is happening out in the Philippines. I really want to just disband that fleet and rebuild it elsewhere. So yeah, I could annoy Spain or but I don't care.
Yeah, there's no world where this is like if it doesn't go +1, you get rid of it as a colonial. There's no favor that you'll be able to cash in with Ming later on that's like actually serious.
Yeah.
Oh, I can get you to go against Mughals. Like that's not something you're already not gonna do. Like, and then West Africa. I was right. It was for Gulf of Guinea. Everything else does not make sense though. Because
So I think I can
Dutch are
explain a bit.
now.
I
Dutch
can
are now
explain some moves.
stabbing England, or what is happening?
Yeah, that was Dutch stabbing England. That's them supporting Mali and Tiniani, and even going for Aja, which ends up being a bounce, which means this army retreats somewhere. But
Well, he played that well, I guess, England.
yeah, if they knew that the stab was coming, I suppose. This oh, this isn't actually a bounce. The army's just dying in the sea, I guess. Um, and then
The Dutch player learns how to walk on water.
we will reclaim the sea.
And the Austrians gonna stab France as well.
Oh yeah, and I remember this. This is the first of. I genuinely wondered to France, like, what was the point of that? What was the point of that? Like,
You
I know
couldn't
you're
have, you
not
couldn't
gonna
stop
do.
that, right? Like, lucky for you, Austria stepped, because otherwise you don't stop that core.
Yeah, but with what builds are you building in the Med when you are having this North America and this Europe?
Yeah, probably right.
Yeah, like, uh, you know, and that makes it really not that concerning when I go into their South
Yeah, like
American
he's dying like on every front. Like his whole playstyle was like fighting everyone. So yeah, he just gets what it
Yeah,
results in.
and I lived, bitch. Got out of Macedonia and into Athens, which actually kills this army. Yeah, I just Austria helps me with the moves that I want to make here, which doesn't give me that much progress, but actually puts me into. Did it put me into Tripoli and Tunis?
That looks like that. That looks very scary.
Oh, no, because Gadames gets. Oh,
Tapped.
this is the start of my. This is the start of my arc where I decide from this point on, I need every army in Africa that I can put because of this guerrilla operation by these two Ottoman armies. No, they never go away until the Ottomans are basically dead. And yes, it kills all of my progress that I wanted to make on Ottomans in the entire Med. And then South America is just stabbing Aymara again because I was supposed to bounce them here. And because I don't do that, it's not actually at all beneficial for me to do that. They played me like a fiddle. And yeah, everything else in the continent. I let the Dutch take up positions here. I like this core a lot. This core is very helpful in Putumayo, and I'm glad I was able to get that off.
Like, did he let it get through? Like, as a
Oh
Dutch
yeah,
player?
he just lets it go through because
that's
something I need to hold the line against Aymara and
sure. I would say
kill.
that as well.
Yeah.
But like this core mainly borders two of the Dutches. Oh, whatever.
Yeah. The laser beam in Madagrasso, which doesn't lead to anything. That's fun. I remember thinking to myself, I have to stop Aymara here now, otherwise they take Brazil. Actually, I also need Mapuche to act against Aymara, which I don't think they agree with me. Actually, I think they are very comfortable with everything that's happening. They
I remember
go
at the
their own
time
pace.
I was so shocked that they were considering that move a stab. It just the Mapuche move.
Oh well, this kind of was. Mapuche was bordering
I
3 of their
I remember
sectors and didn't.
talking to them about like, holy shit, is that a stab? And they kind of said, and maybe I'm misremembering. I remember there being at least some moves that I was like, holy shit, that's a stab, and being told like it's actually agreed upon.
Oh, I see. This is just me being told that because I'm Spain. Of course I get told this is a stab, and
Okay, yeah.
thus like
I think like they just gonna fake. He's gonna stab. So like
I mean,
Aymara
that made me
says, yeah,
feel
you go
pretty
there.
confident about this because I'm like, well, units have to come off the board. Like, it actually
Yeah.
worked. Like,
And then
yeah,
Mapuche is not really stabbing, so that's like smart.
yeah, I agree.
But like, if you want to stab as Mapuche there, it's
Yeah,
gonna
it takes
hurt.
a lot of trust.
I remember like I did something like that in my friend's game when I trusted Shoshone to go to Illinois, and then he just stabbed me for Cherokee and for Detroit in the next 2 years. So that was like bad. Because I wanted him to go to Illinois, so then he can go to Ojibwe and Athapasca can't retreat to Illinois. But yeah, it didn't work out. I can tell you that.
I actually don't blame England's moves here at all. Like, not supporting yourself in anywhere with this France that has a 50-50 of actually kind of working.
Yeah, France had no intention, and given that I had turned against them, it was a safe assumption for England that they were going north. All the tactics there work great, assuming you Shoshone is working with you, by the way, because basically it left the retreat open because I was probably losing. Like, I knew I was losing Ojibwe in the spring, but would be able to recapture it in the fall with this move set. Essentially.
And now I realize why France thinks that, like, you're their only ally, because you just told them that you were. Like, and nobody.
No, later on. Okay, that I become their ally again because literally after this, I go to them and it's like, we both have bigger problems than each other. Let's just be friends, and they immediately say yes because
Yeah, but
look
you're
what's
one of their
happening.
bigger problems. Like,
I turn around. It's fine, probably.
actually, yeah, you turn around and you
Yeah.
both live forever after. The Quebec colony grows
Yeah.
larger, and
As you can see, France is messing with Inuit and that. Yeah.
I don't know like what the point of that is.
Honestly, I can't tell you how they never managed to peace out.
You know,
Every turn, I'd speak to them, and it
Yeah.
would be
Also,
like,
like
guys.
France is messing up Newfoundland as well. Like,
Yeah, because seeing France was dying, I basically was starting to say we need to work together, the three of us, against England, and those two could not get on the same page.
because France could get on the same page.
France and Inuit could not get on the same page as each other, and every time I asked what was happening, they were blaming each other.
Right? Yeah.
Hey.
I don't know. Maybe you had very different experience with Inuit. I found Inuit very hard to coordinate with.
Oh, I
Just in the
see up in
sense that
Greenland Sea.
I think
they,
Inuit was unpredictable, yes,
Oh,
but
that's Carson, not Sweden.
yeah.
yeah, you could coordinate with them.
What time zone were they awake? I always had trouble with them never responding to me.
Oh, if I wanted to talk to them consistently, I had to be up at about 4 a.m. It was great.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. So that was my problem. Was I would get like a message, and at fucking 3 days later, I would get my response.
what's happening around Poland and Sweden and Russia?
Yeah, because that is also something happening. This is a pretty safe self bounce. Russia gets pushed into Livonia here. Livonia gets pushed into Smolensk. I remember thinking Poland doing really okay on tactics because now I'm rooting for them. That like they're on the ticking clock here in terms of like what's gonna happen to them. With all these units
So
around Kyiv, like
An Ottoman misorder.
yeah,
it has to
I'm
be.
Poland. I think at this point Sweden convinced me to work with them against Russia.
Is that
And
after the order fails?
no, I think that was planned actually.
Oh, okay. That would make sense if the self bounce goes through. Like, yeah, no harm.
Yeah.
Okay, I
But yeah,
understand.
I think I was overall in a losing position, but I was trying to salvage it.
No. I would like to see what would happen Like what redraw would have to happen for Sweden to not necessarily go after Poland? And is it just that Poland has to not go for North Germany here? Maybe. Um, that
What's
alliance is like
happening? North Africa? No, not North Africa, but like East Abyssinia, Ajuuran. Like, what's happening there?
so. This is just Ottomans, yeah, actually walking away, going to up here
That's
because,
crazy.
of course, they have to defeat Spain. Spain needs to die.
Is this spring or fall right now?
This is spring.
It's, okay.
And Seaward Mounts goes to SAO5. By the way, I get involved in all the shenanigans down there. But yeah, you continue your war against Ajuuran here in a way that like is slow, but I can see the angle because these are all fleets. So you could just get the interior and then fight along there.
I think like yeah, it's kind of holdable because Ajuuran can't really defend, but if Ottomans to step here, it's over.
Yeah. Also, amazing
happening
guess,
there?
by the way.
I was wondering how Aiden got a core. Now I know.
Yeah, you had no option. If the Ottomans moved anywhere, they'd get in, so you had to stay there. You being Abyssinia, for the audience, this is the sub who took over not too long after this.
Yeah.
Anything else that we notice?
At this point.
What's up?
What did you ask?
Abyssinia had about. Didn't Abyssinia have 2 subs?
Maybe. I remember there
Could
being a
be,
little
like,
bit of
I read through the void. I think like the first Abyssinia player like subbed out year 1 or 2 already, and then like another took over.
So
So
you were the
everything
first.
relevant is gonna happen is like the second player, and I was the
Okay.
third. Maybe I don't know.
I wasn't paying too much attention to who was playing.
Yeah, me neither. Like I did not bother to read much of the void when I joined. I don't know why, but I was like, I gotta just figure out if I can live here.
The original Abi player returned after, I think, the third year or the second year, played for one phase and then subbed instantly out.
Okay, maybe something like that. Like he started, needed to go, someone took over, he wasn't satisfied when he come back, and then I took over, something like that.
Dang. I'm gonna look forward to the voids because while like I can multitask, I'm just like taking glances at them, and I really want to dig into the meat of them. I think this will be the last year then. So we've got the butterfly wings, the stab in Abyssinia, the French
Athapasca, not
bungling,
Abyssinia, but yeah.
or yeah, Athapascan
They're all
mess
like.
up. I suppose. Yeah, this is interesting. This is the beginning of the end for Ayutthaya, I think, as a power at all. Like, they didn't make enough ground in Southeast Asia to justify this week of a position against
No,
Ming.
yeah.
Even leaving Fan Rong open because you think they're gonna go to Lansong. I mean, yeah, this should get somewhere realistically, but man,
That's rough.
Yeah. Then what do we got for
Sure.
retreats? Oh yeah, I decided to. You know what? I could also be a guerrilla fighting the guerrilla war. Good luck, bud. Yeah, this army dies. Safavids doesn't retreat. Safavids just lets that army die. Okay, that might be an NMR on the retreats actually. Ooh. Also an Abbey.
What an NMR in this game. So unbelievable.
Yeah,
How that
right.
unit dies? Like this. Huh?
No. The Dinka is just an NMR. No moves received. Like they don't retreat it.
Yeah,
I remember there being a lot of fuss about NMRs at this point. Oh, did I? Yeah, I ended up killing that fleet. That was really nice. And then Mughals gets into your other core, England. England has left at this point, but yeah. Retreat to Dakota. Fun.
Yep. The one
they
naval
actually
retreat I
funny, like
have. But it's a good position actually. Like because it literally goes right onto that front with Shoshone.
Yeah, and you can trust that France will do nothing to you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Go to full moves and look what happens.
We'll look at your moves to start, and yeah.
Look.
Yeah, I think like I know why Athapasca and also England had like a really good game.
Why would
well,
Athapasca be able to solo from this? But
so, but there is a funny story there because I did actually mess up when I was talking to them. What I meant to ask for, I didn't even want them to walk out. I wanted them to
You
tap.
zoom in a bit.
I wanted them to tap Illinois. I wanted them to tap Illinois and support me into Iowa, but for some reason I asked them to basically support me into Ojibwe. So they ended up just walking out for me.
Yeah, I remember that was an upsetting turn of events. Which there was like a lot of upsetting turn of events this turn, but
oh
yeah.
yeah, we go south and
Yeah, I spoke to Spain about this, and
this was the first turn that I looked at your press and said, "Wait a minute, this is actually pretty good advice."
well, yeah, I basically said you're good, and we started to discuss, and you basically said you've got your moves in. We'll talk next turn about going forward. So I was confident you were stabbing.
Yeah. I just don't like giving any
Yeah.
sort of press message that could be copy
Yeah.
pasted. I have a very distinct way of typing and drawing up maps, it seems. So
the other thing, I went to Inuit and they got Aleuts from.
did.
yeah. Which again, this was like
Ah.
supposedly part of the
Oh,
like
I know why
bit.
this was the big stab turn. I'm like, wait,
And I also
nothing
had
happens.
to work with Spain and take Hawaii.
See, I was doing this independently, so I don't
Yeah.
know if it was this much of a master manipulation, but
I mean, it's not
yeah.
manipulation.
Wait,
but-
you also separately went to Inuit. I did too, actually.
Yeah.
Of course, it's like
Of
you
course I
do
am.
this.
I've just been stabbed by someone. Of course I'm going to go try and make their life hell.
Well, yeah, I guess I guess I'm the more
yeah.
surprising one. Going back in time a little
yeah.
bit, I do mess up for the first time. This is not the last time. The first misorder of the game. For some reason, we are arranging a bounce in Gulf of Honduras, and I'm thinking it's Yucatan Channel, and so I type in "go to Yucatan Coast." So.
Oh dear.
And I don't think much of it, but I'm like, this is actually really bad if he exploits this. Which, shiftyfly's such a nice guy that he resets back to Havana.
Yeah. England and Spain, those people that don't trust each other.
I don't trust England, and you bet
are
if
really
anyone
suspicious of one another. Who knows? How could they not trust each other? Like, I don't know.
listen, if anyone asks me from this turn on, I do not trust England, all right?
Of course you don't.
and on a personal level, I probably don't. But I just yeah, this is a really funny thing that happens, and I do tell Poland to go to Caribbean Sea. It's just
Of course you do.
yeah, of course.
Yeah, I did say during the moves to try to get Carson to back off that you were going to attack them, and England would be the primary beneficiary in North America. But yeah, I don't
Yeah, I was fairly I was fairly committed.
Yeah, there was no backing
I actually
up away.
I was pretty happy with the Gross Ventura's my guess to get into Seneca instead of the center. I feel like that was like a solid positioning.
It's the thing of I knew you were going to get into Seneca basically almost certainly if you go for position, which is the right thing to do, I think.
But it was
It's also
fall.
the thing of it's full, and you feel bad if you don't go into the center and they go in, and then you.
See, the thing is, the calculations that I was doing was that, as far as I'm concerned, Inuit were always delaying their stab till fall. So I'm still expecting them to leave a loose, walk into you in Athapasca, block, like bounce you in your capital, And then all of a sudden, like, and then also expecting France to not walk out of the center. And then all of a sudden, I'm actually in a very good position against you.
If I would
Yeah.
be shown here, that feels
Oh yeah.
bad.
Also, I got that move from France for the low cost of supporting them into Quebec, and
Yeah, it's like, and it didn't even matter.
and at the same turn, I'm holding Inuit from Cree, which is stopping France getting into a center.
Oh, you did not even realize, so no worries.
Yeah, I do a lot of moves that basically stall that entire front until I'm ready to go back there.
Yeah, but France after this phase also thinks you're still their friend.
Yeah, because I am France's friend.
Yeah.
Basically, I spent years basically supporting those two powers in place.
I just remember, friends. If someone tells you you're their friend, you're allowed to question what they've done recently to make them your friend.
and I supported them in Quebec to help
And
them against the English.
the
I
English
don't know
are
why Fort Detroit's holding, by the way. That's a mystery to me.
it's just you know,
Because yeah, they
French
bounced
move in
the
mysterious
center.
ways, you know.
Yeah, they could have
they didn't
bounced
even
by-
bother to bounce Mont Royal. There's like nothing. This border doesn't exist at all. Oh man.
I think like it's just over.
Yeah, I want to say in my void at this point, I basically
your
write.
idea of how things could have gone,
It's
and you
GG.
illustrated that to me just now. I see
Yeah.
what you're talking about. I don't think it's that
Yeah.
bad of a position,
I don't think.
especially
you,
in
and
the
again,
West. But
I don't think that you would have. And add that as like, are you stabbing me if I get in? If I don't misorder an SPO and or MPO, and it's like, it could be a very different game for me if those things go differently.
and
But
also,
Yeah,
if you
I
had
think
any
it-
help, this goes better for you,
Yeah.
and you might build here. And I'm
Yeah.
not winning my stab against you.
and you're not winning.
I
Yeah.
think the key is Inuit mainly.
It is. It is. If Inuit are involved,
Yeah.
and I was really irritated because I felt like Inuit were getting way more out of it than me anyway. Like I felt like I was taking the risk and they were getting the reward, and then they just were like, I don't actually want the reward. I was like, okay.
Here, I'll put up the upfront capital. You'll end up making like $100 gazillion, and I'll make like $1. And
Also,
how do you
something
like
that
those
happened
odds?
this
And you're like,
year-
awesome, yeah, you put up the money, and actually, I'm not really interested. Goodbye.
something that happened this year
How did
is-
South America pan out? Like Mapuche faking the stab and following through?
I remember really coaching Mapuche at this point. Because Mapuche has these two fleets here. They tell me that they'll throw to me essentially, and that they just want to make life hell for Portugal. So I try and coach them on what moves to make, though it might be the year after this where I start because this is very bad.
I have no idea why Mapuche hates me. I wanted to work with them, they stabbed me, and then they hate me for some reason. I don't get it.
Is that Portugal or Aymara?
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
Portugal. I don't know, Portugal. You had something on you with that region that just did not like you. I don't know.
yeah.
In my opinion, Patagonia is the easier part of South America to kill, anyways. So it's not even like to your loss, Portugal. This is the growth that you expect to get. I'm barely able to hold on to Aymara and stuff. I knew I told France. You know what? I should have took the Athapascan approach. I should have told France that I was their friend and I was actually going to support them into Bellum and out into St. Marcus Bay. Instead, I did the more pragmatic option and told them, "Hey, if you just leave Cayenne, then those two fleets can go in the South Atlantic Ocean and can do so much. Like I will win in the long run here. There's no way like I should have thought more on that.
Well,
Yeah.
also, like I think Russia joined in here, if I'm not mistaken. So maybe he can something.
I'm gonna check on
I might just-
mobile because
Oh,
every
it
time
says country spectator. My bad. It's not. It's not the.
No, this is the first Russia.
Ah, it's
Oh,
Yeah, I was here
yes.
for like the first couple years and then had to sub out, unfortunately.
Oh, that's right. Oh my gosh. Here's a gem from the English press that will shortly become relevant. Uh, well, Spain stabbed Portugal. Being on the turn where I stab Portugal and they are soon to follow. Okay. I'm trying not to stall out here because I am losing a little energy. Russia does really well in Central Asia and cleans up Safavids with Ottomans. I remember being a little frustrated because the Ottomans do have a lot of open centers that Russia can take, and it's just like, why don't you take from Safavids and take from Ottomans at the same time? Especially
It
when
was
Ottomans
so
isn't
annoying.
like Ottomans isn't necessarily like losing. They could still come back, and then you are what they need to win. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe my perfectly reasonable crash out happened sometime here because I was being a mean girl. And I was just saying how like you won on every other front that you possibly could have, and I'm the only one putting up any resistance to you. Why do you still like resist? Which I'll admit it's just theatrics. And I know why. I just I do pretty well on this turn. Tunis doesn't. Oh, it doesn't work because I'm in it. I get into Gadaim Sicily. Like this is a huge source of growth for me in a turn where I don't actually have that much. Yeah. 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 So you go into Han Yang. That was agreed upon and perfectly reasonable.
No,
Oh wait.
no, it wasn't.
In the big picture, I zoomed out a bit. I'm like, wait a minute.
This isn't going to have any relevance later, is it?
No, and in fact, it's actually a very see. That's the mistake up here. We don't have the gift of hindsight, but Oriental Sea being opened, we needed a fleet there, and Ito still being there because of the fleets around here. Actually,
not
pretty reasonable. Where's NPO?
Ming came to me after I started this stab, which I'll get into why I started it later, and basically said like, why didn't you just fake the stab like you told me you were going to? And I was like, shit, you're right.
Wait,
'Cause-
fake the oh, like go to Spain and
Yes. That could and it's like shit, I should have actually done that. Because like here's the funny thing, I literally told Ming the moves I was about to do. Too.
Oh no. Oh no.
So it's like if I had faked the stab here, holy crap, this position would have just
would have been really good for the Asian triple, and I don't know why I believed you.
Yeah. I don't know why in retrospect either. I think it was wishful thinking because we had just stalemated basically for like the past year here.
I think we immediately were like getting a good vibe in press, and there was no
And
reason
that
for us
too.
to not trust each other.
Yeah.
I think my press with Ming had been becoming more tense because you just like shirked all responsibility on your prior moves in the earlier years as like yeah, Ming told me to do that. So I was like, those treacherous Ming, I will help you any day. We will blow up the Ming fleet so that it can get rebuilt in Nanjing or Beijing.
And slow our entire progress down on attacking this front.
Of
to the point where
course,
we like break it when the game's over.
You're setting me up to position against Formosa. What a genius play, Tokugawa. Like, India is.
The reason so the reason that I ended up going for the stab was that I was getting blatantly terrified of the fact that Ming and Qing were both growing and I was relatively stagnant. And Ming had proposed to me, and I learned later that no, they weren't planning on backstabbing me. But like Ming's plan was basically Ming goes in first now. Ming goes in to break the entire line, and Ming will just give me the centers later.
That's not.
It's all good.
That's
All
not a
fine.
good pitch, though. And the thing is,
Yeah,
is
I know.
yeah, like sometimes when someone makes a bad pitch, you don't know whether it's like, oh, are you messing up and revealing your treachery to me? And is this
And
just a
that's why I
sign that I have
felt
to take it to go for the stab? Sometimes, and it just so happened to be this time, it's just a bad proposal, and you need to get them
yeah.
to like make a better one, and that's all it takes to fix the alliance.
Like literally just offer me Hongyang and we're good. And we're good.
That's what I did, and I kept my Tokugawa on a leash for another 5 years in A2C off that, and I think that this could have been a similar situation. like the Ming was proposing to you, I also led the charge into South China Sea actually. And the difference was Toku did actually get the dots, but on my terms. So, yeah, I mean,
Because I was scared of the Shoshone Spain alliance pushing into NPO and then running me over, and then Qing and Ming seeing that and also running me over at this point. So I was like,
But at that
"Shoot,
point,
I
you
need to
saw
do
like
something."
at that point, like Spain stepped Shoshone, so you should have known that there's no.
Well, no.
Yeah.
well,
But
it
no,
only
it
happened
happened
because I
just
got the trust of the
fine.
Tokugawa, which was not proven until this turn, by the way, which means I
Yeah.
probably shouldn't have done that.
Because notice I'm getting Hawaii here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Notice which
You
is
are
another
getting
reason I should have just faked the stab, because I would have just gotten Hawaii
Yeah, you
anyway.
could just fake the stab and whatever happens.
Yeah.
And I flipped into evens and
I'll say this. I think one thing I have to separate and do better on going forward is figuring out like who are my enemies and who are my allies anyways, and like who do I care that I don't have trust with, and who can't afford not to trust me. Cuz something like this where it's like, oh man, will Ming trust me if I stab them here? It's like, I don't know, can they afford not to? Like um I don't know.
yeah.
There's a
So
lot
like
And
going
because
on here.
it's getting really late. Like let's
Yeah,
figure
we're
out
finishing up this
India,
year.
Africa, do the builds, and then stop for this.
yeah.
Also, like it's then the next year I just even joined this game, so it's gonna
Yeah.
be.
Just East Asia gets
Prologue,
very
right?
frustrating for me for like about a month of real world time.
Yeah. I do say that like the reason why I readjust those alliances, we're delaying India for a second, I hope you don't mind, is just because I
Yes.
am finally back from Morocco and I can drop all my maps, and I'm critically looking at some things and tactics and exploring them more deeply, and I get really involved in talking to people. I give them some proposals that work really well, and then Toku was just one of them. One of
I-
them.
Yeah, no worries, no
Yeah.
worries.
So then that's that. India, I think it's just blowing up the Mughal fleet that slipped in the previous year, cutting off all their available retreats except Penner, which is like, eh. Hyderabad stays on the board, which does mean that like Rajamundry gets in there. No progress on this side of the coast, but man, should Mughals have thought more about Gulf of Oman?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, because I understand why you would do this. Kandesh is a threat, but Delhi, Surat, like all these can shut it down.
Also, you should get some builds, right? If I'm not mistaken. He finally takes up Kathmandu. He gets into the English center, so he could build in Delhi and Ahmedabad anyway.
And Ming leaves Bamo. That's right. So they don't even lose that this year, though.
They
It's
just
not like Ming is gonna leave them alone with these moves.
they can build a lot. Like
Yeah. They
Does
nearly
anyone
get
know
into
what that
Herat
army's
as well.
doing, just sitting stationary in the middle of their country? Ming.
Oh, I.
They've got.
You know, it's just staring at us menacingly. It probably
It's like
follows.
it knows what's about to come.
Presumably
It
wants to
probably
give
goes into
to
Ring Pung
Mughals.
Pa
Yeah.
and follows into
like I
Bhutan,
think Shudo going over
Sangpa,
there,
and then
Yeah.
Chengdu
and
to Ring Pung
it's
Pa. That
just
would have
so
been
much
better.
better.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm
I
looking at
don't.
this and I'm just like, why did I not just go into Philippine Sea here?
Listen,
Look.
Spanish mind control is real, okay? You were the victim of it. France and the Netherlands were victims of it. It's okay. Shoshone was a victim of it. It's
Ev-
all right.
Everyone dots their allies occasionally, and it always works out well.
Yeah, and you repair your
Mhm.
relationship after this turn anyways, and turn around to kill the Spain in the Philippines, and end up having a pretty successful game all around.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
Tokugawa
Yeah,
both
totally,
teamed up to
totally,
defend
totally,
Spain
totally.
together, and that's why
And-
we won the game and not Spain.
Yeah,
Yes,
you and
yeah,
Ute actually used the Hawaii take to like just pull a complete 180 on me. It was
It's
nuts.
very impressive.
It was yeah, honestly, masterclass. um, so France continues to. This is actually the first good defensive turn from France, actually, that I've seen at least. They keep their centers in Madagascar, which obviously indicates that they plan to hold this for quite a while, actually. Um,
Surely that'll hold.
surely this will
So
hold.
does Ajuuran cities die even more, right?
Yeah, they
Kind of defend.
they
maybe?
try to push this unit to their capital, but it bounces. Portugal tries to go into here, but you get tapped. That is crazy that your prior was trying to get Portugal one more center in Africa.
That's kind of
nuts.
weird, to be honest. And Congo somehow gets. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't get that. I think you want to keep Darfur, so that's why Congo does not move. I think maybe you just move both Congo units east and give Darfur to get the Allies fall. You can build. Never mind.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't terrible, but
I think it's fine.
sheesh.
Yeah, totally. But there I lose my capital, and then I join in, and I have no capital.
It's crazy. It's like, and it was all on trust. That's nuts. Um. Okay, so yeah, South America was what it was. The
I know it's
French
getting
stab was terrible. Like this was awful. I didn't understand this at all. The Saxony move fine, but really everything moves back, even the stuff that like realistically could end up in a center by the end of this year. Like Poland, you had to be so mad at this. Like if
I think I
Poland's
subbed out
even
before
still
this turn
ah yeah,
because I left
that
for
Yeah,
like
I
a
was-
week.
this
Munster supporting Hesse into Bremen gets them an SC there.
it does because
Ye-
Kiel's already dead. And it's not like threatening Austria here, an Austria that's building off of Genoa, and Strasbourg is going to be like, oh no, Prague. Like, yeah.
To be fair, France is in a very hard position, and they're relatively new.
I think they put themselves into that, so yeah.
Yeah. This as well actually turned out okay. Getting Nantes back,
Yeah.
pretty good, and Ghent into English Channel. That
They're losing-
creates
they're
some
losing-
issues
they're lo-
for English. Like
They're losing Bordeaux, so I think
they
they're
are
just
losing
swapping.
Bordeaux, so it's net 0 here. It's -2 off of these two. I wish they would have tapped Savoy with this because they could just retreat to Ligurian regardless.
Yeah,
this-
that's kind of true.
But yeah, that's the game defining thing in Europe.
Also,
at
wasn't.
least.
No, they got Amsterdam. My bad.
They did get Amsterdam. Yeah, Poland and Sweden actually do start working together here. And
Yeah, I was
Sweden
going to
doesn't
mention Sweden is back, so I could speak to. I don't know Poland how much Poland has said, but because I was gone for a minute there, but at some point Poland comes to me and we start back channeling. I was starting to get very comfortable with a Russian alliance while Rudy was still around, and I think it's this turn where both Poland and Russia sub. And so things get really awkward for me. The Russian sub comes in and immediately tears up, like tears the relationship to shreds. Honestly, like Rudy and I had agreed to exchange Narva. The Russian sub came in and immediately tried to backtrack on that, and then lied to me about stuff that was happening up in the North Sea, and I had to kind of yeah, okay, so you guys have already been here, but they go to Barents Sea when that was, a no-no, and then tried to court Spitsbergen. But
Inuit
and
and Kara Sea is an interesting thing that
yeah,
happened.
yeah, that was, I mean, dollar signs in my eyes when that happens. But I sniped Spitsbergen. Poland and I are back channeling because I'm treating Russia as a competitor rather than an ally because of the sub. And yeah, I'm just trying to get into Denmark and prevent. I'm feeding Poland whatever Russian moves I can get a hold of, just to try to slow them down,
Which
while I
this is pretty
consolidate
good.
in Denmark. So yeah.
I think this is really good coordination of all your units, and getting Spitsbergen and Narva is gonna be, I mean, Tron time. It's open.
Yeah, things were looking really good here.
Like, quick question. Like, the new Russian player was like the player who played till the end, right?
Correct, yeah.
I think so, because that was the same one that I couldn't convince to stab Ottomans for whatever reason. Because I think like the stuff up here with Sweden, like they didn't want their entire west to be nothing but enemies and Safavids.
I do remember eventually getting into a working relationship with the new Russia player, but it takes a while because they don't take me seriously, given the fact that they still think I'm working with Ming and Qing here.
I think I had one interaction with him later down the line where I asked for some taps on the Ottoman, and it was like very hard. And he also
yeah.
did
Yeah.
some like disrespectful press, like calling words, which I was like, okay, what did I do to you that you call me like
No, yeah,
basically dumb or something? Like, it was kind
the
of
Russia
weird.
sub was very difficult, very very difficult press wise. That's all I'll say.
Like there wasn't much we could work for, but like he did some weird press where I was like, okay, I think even I did nothing wrong. You kind of don't like me, it seems. Okay.
Yeah, and even I found working with Russia, the new Russia, difficult because I kept on having to like press with them right before the deadline, and they were not active outside of that.
Oh, Toku. I understand why. Because even if because I'm looking at this, and even if this wasn't the best stab to do on Ming, and even if they build in Beijing and Nanjing, like surely that just ends up being a stalemate, but you end up growing from that. I'm wondering how later on in the game even happens. Oh no.
If only that Edo fleet had tapped down there. If
Yup.
only.
Yep. And
But I was just way too concerned about MPO.
well then.
Yeah.
On that note, I will move to the clean map, and
I
guess
had
this
a
is
lot of
builds.
issues with like fleets ending up behind me in the places I don't want them to be. First it was Kuroshio-Kern, and then it was another place later.
Like, you got 3 builds here, in all fairness. Like, you got 3. And it did
How
cover
can it
your
go
home
wrong?
centers. Like,
How can it go wrong? We're eating so good. Oh.
Uh-oh. Did we get Ching on side before we stabbed the Asian triple?
No.
No, Papa. Yeah.
I thought, did we get Russia fully on side yet? No.
Well,
wasn't the sentiment from King usually like generally that they were not happy with the triple?
Yes, but the thing is that this is the big thing is that Ming
now
was
it's a double.
metagaming. Ming was metagaming. Ming was metagaming in the sense that Ming wanted to make it look like they could be a very trustworthy ally in future games.
Oh.
And so because of that, they were not wanting to go away from Qing.
Oh.
And so like I even talked to Ming and tried like basically the next 3 years of my press with Ming is me desperately begging them to stab Qing here because it would be so good to stab Qing here. And if you just build in Beijing, we can get rid of Qing so easily here.
But you're
And-
also really easy to get rid of with Qinghao. Especially with a Spain, who up until this point, even with removing my fleet from from Okinawa, was pretending that Kuroshio was entirely planned. And that actually Spain is perfectly fine with letting you guys fight it out up here.
Yep.
Yep. That is by far the most defining thing that happens in this phase, at least.
There are some important builds in North America. Well, not actually builds, disband.
Disbands. So this is kind of funny. So
Straighten out the.
Yeah. So Spain comes to me after the stab, and I'm basically like, I'm sad. Just to be honest, that's my general emotion is sadness.
Oh, you're
And
very sad because you were actually very unfairly in some of the group chats. People kind of pilloried you for stabbing
Yes.
me and
Yeah.
not going into Spain and England. And I never put them up to it. I don't know why people did that.
Yeah, people were
so I
mad
did
at
feel kind of
me.
bad to you for that.
People
I
were
was
mad at
you
me.
for trying to dot me an Edo.
Sure, but whatever. But yeah, people were yelling at me. Inuit stabbed me indirectly, and like Spain and all my allies stabbed me. And it was very sad times. And so I go to Athapasca, and I was like, if I disband Sekai, will you peace out and I'll go fight Spain? And they say yes. I don't really believe them, but what choice do I have? And meanwhile, while that's happening, Spain is like, basically in probably nicer words, tells me that I'm fucked and that they will give me the generous offer of taking my entire West Coast and Arapaho in exchange and they'll let me live if I basically do exactly what they say. Is about how I remember the offer going.
Pretty much, yeah.
And I was like,
which, by the way, that speaks more to like Athapasca and their press, which I'm sure you deduced, than what my greed.
Yeah.
I will also say that generous offer from Spain, as that stands, I believe involves leaving you with Missouri because in the split we were discussing, that's the only center that Spain was getting that they've not just promised to take from you.
I get what I want from the split either way.
Yeah. And so I'm like, as a last ditch effort, I'll try to peace out Athapasca while at the same time trying to keep Spain on side. And so then I end up going to Spain. And I'm just like, yeah, I actually NMR'd this phase, which was just a lie. I I did disband Seneca. I don't know if you believed me when I told you I
I mean,
NMR'd
we've
the
seen what
builds.
NMRs look like from other people, and I think at the time I just didn't care.
You probably shouldn't care, probably because I don't think it mattered. But
I would have liked it if you caused more problems. It would have slowed down the other person participating in the partition. But I have I don't take this seriously as a way for like you to make peace. I just think it's like Athapasca getting better tempo on you.
yeah. But yeah, and this is like basic. And at this point, I think my game is like effectively over, and I basically effectively actively throw. I think there's like one turn where I go heavily against you, and then when I see that Athapasca's still going against me, I just let Spain feed me orders for the rest of the game.
Can we have a throw counter in the upper right corner?
Sure, this was probably the first one.
I mean, I wouldn't really call what you did a throw, really.
My game was over either way.
Yeah,
I think
you're in a very bad position at this point, and
yeah.
From my perspective, you come and give me that offer, which is all well and good. The problem is the damage has already been done.
Sure, the damage has been done, and you would say yes no matter what. Like getting that unit off the board is just good for you.
Yeah, it's good for me. But my problem is all my armies last turn had to stop going east and come back west to face this threat, which means I lost all momentum against England and France. So I did look at it, but by the time I get over to England, they would have eaten France anyway. So there's now nothing for me to gain by going east.
Yeah,
And
I mean, I
therefore
wasn't.
I have
I
to go with
wasn't.
you.
I wasn't upset with you or Spain in this. I think the person I was mad at was Inuit, which I think actually baffled some people that were like on the other side of the board. Is like, why aren't you mad at either of these people? But Inuit was the person that really like fucked me. I feel like, and myself by that misorder earlier.
Also, side note,
But-
my good friend France disbanded on my border as well. So I've gone this year from having 2 enemies to 0 enemies.
Yeah.
but
I'm
like,
sure
you being
that
mad
you'll
at
be
Inuit
contained
makes
by the
sense.
powers that are in the area. I mean, like, look at this board. You've got England, Spain, and Portugal in the lead.
Oh,
Like, leagues
Like-
above everybody else.
I'm still shouting about the fact that you and like you're still working together. At this point, my good friend France is also telling me that Portugal's in that, and it's a full-on triple.
I don't know how France gets that idea, but
No idea, but hey, it was a good bit of info, and it came from France. Credit where credit's due.
Quick question, because like it's gonna be relevant for the next years. How is Portugal doing? Also, he's very quiet the last few years. Like, get a-
Portugal had where are they growing? Because they had 32 at the start of this year, and they got 35. Is that probably from their successful Gulf campaign, Ceylon? They actually start a war with the Netherlands here. The threat from Portugal is and also Mapuche. They don't get much
Are they
progress.
fighting Congo already? Like,
They aren't successful yet. They're in fact only just now getting around to cutting Poland out of West Africa. What is where the momentum starts to come in is that now that they've gone to war with Netherlands over Ceylon, and Netherlands is floundering in a lot of places, and France has taken off Madagascar.
I think like, sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt, but I think like on the southern part of the map is like Dutch and Portugal only kind of most of the times. It feels like
Yeah.
so one of these two always get out on top, and then they're very, very strong in the southern part of the map. And it
Yeah.
feels so empty around there. There's like nothing really to contest them there. Maybe Mapuche at some
In
point.
the new redraws of the map, I don't know if the problem even gets solved with Guarani being there, but I do like that there's another power in the southern hemisphere, and
it's
it's more
definitely
dense around
good
here.
choice.
Yeah.
But I think like maybe something around Madagascar or maybe in the Indian Ocean is. Like you can't put something there, but you know what I mean. That's very empty. Indian Ocean
Yeah.
feels like Portugal or Dutch only.
When did the Zulu?
Oh, there's that massive French colony right there. What do you
Maybe the
mean?
Indian Ocean should touch Africa somewhere. Like maybe not in Mogadishu, but like not this.
Yeah,
This
whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
I think it's like a good way to stop here because
Yeah. So we ended
I'm wondering
at...
if we're ever going to get like a Zulu in South Africa.
That's too. See, the Zulu don't even come onto the scene until like this. Well, actually, the 1600s. Okay.
True.
Okay.
yeah, for
Shit.
the audience, this is the year I come in here, but we're gonna talk about that the next time.
Yup. Now, not me forgetting my place in the maps and accidentally deleting the one we end on. Where's the throw counter? Oh, it'll have me delete the throw counter if I try. Okay, there we go.
Yep.
We end here. So this is the state of the world at the end of this first AAR, and I hope everyone has at least some insight into how we're thinking about this game so far. Some players.
Hey, look! Toku's in the position that I'm sure they'll stay in and
Well,
wind up in.
Hold on.
I'm so confused to be honest. Like when I look at this right now, you have like the 3 colonias on top, and then like Congo having such a good spot, like, and somehow I came in here and he just give everything back for free. I'm so confused.
Yeah, like like Abyssinia and me and Athapasca, we ain't winning this game from this position. Let's be real.
Let's be
I think
completely
Athapasca is like a very good situation.
I don't know. Athapasca's in a pretty good spot with my
even
with like
if
my
their
collapse.
score isn't even at like the top, like you got to admit their tempo is going to be great regardless.
But yeah, like if I see this here right now, you're not thinking Athapasca win. They're in a good spot, but like the colonies are so ahead.
Yeah, My problem is England and Spain are working together, and once
Yeah, I see that.
Shoshone and France are dead, where do they go?
I feel
Yeah.
like this was I mean, I feel like the
And
way
as you saw,
of-
they walk into each other because that's like the thing is gonna
the
happen.
way North America is drawn, I actually think it's incredibly hard for Spain to make much progress north. I don't know. That's
Only
I've
when
noticed this
there's
from a
no
lot of
units
games.
there.
The
Apparently.
Yeah.
problem is also if they're working with England.
Yeah, I guess it is different then.
There's a reason that basically from this year onwards, I'm basically constantly pressing casual.
Because I'm just nice. I'm just a nice guy.
You're nice, and I need you to attack England, please.
Well, at some point. Surely. All right. With that, I'm gonna call the recording here. Thank you guys for joining me for session 1. I do have a YouTube channel, and I will have privated all my other videos up until this, so that way my diplomacy content is the only stuff there. All right. Everyone, have a wonderful rest of your night. I hope you guys join us for session 2.